actually read them verbatim into the record, just reference them by sender and, okay.
Mine's 12. He doesn't walk.
They're short ones, but you know,
He plays with a neighbor dog.
my
and they
mom
have him in
always had to
aspirin and
use
help him up the stairs. at
like
night for bed.
3-page books because then I go to sleep.
Good run. He's
Yeah.
Still in good shape, but he's definitely showing his age.
Does he laugh?
No, he's yellow.
Oh.
I finally gave up on the iPads entirely, right?
Oh.
I'll make sure my phone's off.
We have no iPad?
Charlie's on TV.
Request paper.
You see why I always do. I'm an old school guy. I want to have it. in my
I saw
hands.
90 pages and I said, oh, God. I don't want that.
Were they all in one email?
No, there was two
Three separate,
different ones.
okay, so. Second, I want to search.
Mm.
There we go.
Hey, hey,
Hello,
great to see you back.
yeah, you're just saying that.
No, I was just begging it.
You do very well, and I enjoyed watching you sit in for me.
Stumble and
I
fumble.
figured it was time to come out of hibernation.
Yes.
Well, you're gonna get me the references, right? Because I can look them up on my phone.
Yeah.
We should probably hit this thing. Chief might have a fire to get to or something.
Right now, but never know.
Never know.
Just my excuse to get out if I have to.
I've seen you kind of like look at your phone and leave, you
Oh,
know.
sorry, gotta go.
Nobody's gonna call you on it. You know, when I worked for the state many, many years ago, I had a fake beeper. You press the button, 30 seconds later, it goes off. Got out of so many meetings that way. That won't work for you folks tonight. We're gonna call this meeting of the Laconia Planning Board to order at 6:31. Could we please have a call of the roll, please?
Charlie St. Clair,
Here.
here. Kirk Biotti,
Here.
Rich McNeil,
Here.
Stacy Susie,
Yeah.
Mike Delavecchia.
Here.
Scott McWilliam,
Here.
Brett Bellevue,
Present.
Rita Burnett.
Present and accounted for. The staff in attendance tonight, we have Dean Trefethan, Planning Director, Kalina Graham, and Mr. Robert Moore over there with our online crew. Do we have any folks waiting? Oh, good. All right, good. Let's move right along. Did anybody have any objection to acceptance of the minutes as distributed? Sensing none, we'll declare them accepted. We have an extension, 23 Summit Ave. It's a request to extend approval for a subdivision, lot subdivision. PL 2021-0027 SU. Is the applicant here?
Should be online.
He is online.
Oh, well, hello there. Could you tell us your name, please?
All right. Sorry, having trouble with Zoom here. It's Todd Kabelski. How are you today?
Can we get more volume in here, Rob? Let's try that again.
Okay. All right, great. This is Todd Kabelski. How are you? Still can't hear me?
While waiting. Just like a musician, turn the monitors up. I can't hear.
I think that's all the power I can give you.
All right. Well, who's on the line, Rob?
This is Todd Kabelski. Could you hear me?
If you'd say it louder, the old man could hear it.
All right. This is Todd Kabelski.
Todd Kabelski, thank you.
Thanks.
We,
All right.
we managed to do it without technology. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Hi, could you give us a summary of the reason for your request?
Yes, we applied for this subdivision with the planning board almost a year ago. And we finally got approval from the shoreline a few weeks back for the exception that we needed. So we're in progress of getting things done right now, but we still have a couple steps we need to handle, which we'll probably get them done in the next couple of weeks. But I was trying to just extend the deadline for a couple of months.
A couple of months, yeah. I
Yeah.
see here, someone has written in completion by October 4th, 2022.
Yep.
That'd be enough time?
That'll be more than enough time. I think we'll be done in a couple of weeks, but I'd rather err on the side of caution and give a couple months, give a couple extra months for it.
Yeah, well, that puts it at the outside of the season too, so that's
Yeah.
probably a good time.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant about the request for extension? All right, then, how would somebody like to make a motion regarding, this would be an extension of PL 2021-0027 SU to October 4th, 2022.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Sensing none. Do we have to do it? We don't have to do a roll call, do we? We still do? Ah,
Sorry.
start with Charlie then,
Yep.
all night long.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes.
Eric Biati.
Yes.
Rich McNeil.
Yes.
Stacy Susie.
yes.
Mike Delvecchio.
Yes.
Scott McWilliams.
Yes.
Brett Melville.
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right, that has been extended. Thank you very much for your patience, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good day, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Have a good summer.
Thank you. You as well.
They tell me it's gonna come.
Yeah. Someday.
All right. We have a number of public hearings scheduled for this evening. The first one concerns 56 Drummer Trail. It's PL 2020-0018 CUP amended, I guess is what AMD1 means. And again, it's a proposal to amend the encroachment into the 50-foot wetland buffer. That was, when was that original approval? Dean, do you know off the top of your head, or is that gonna come up in the staff report?
You have, that's a good question.
Well, it was 20, let's put it this way, it's a 2020 docket number, so,
Early in the year of 2020.
yeah, okay. All right, and this, it looks like this application was accepted by motion of the board last month.
Yes.
This is also the application for which we received some correspondence. And we'll get to that when we get to the public hearing. I guess we're actually at that point. Is the applicant here and ready to go forward? Come on up. Good evening.
Evening.
Would you guys identify yourselves for the record, please?
I'm Bob,
Stephanie Brunel.
we own the lot.
Yep, okay. You've filed a proposal to amend the previous approval of your conditional use permit.
Correct.
All right, so let us know why we should do that.
Thought it was just an approval.
Well, it is approval, but there have to
build a
be
house.
grounds and stuff.
We're basically just looking to build a little bit bigger of a house. We bought the lot only about a year ago, so when it got approved before, I don't know either.
So you're increasing the square footage several hundred feet, right, from the original approval,
Yes.
Yes,
the finished square footage? And as you may have heard me reference, we received, the planning department received some email
Yes, I saw it.
correspondence from your neighbors that I believe objected to a change in the a previous acceptance. So I think you probably need, for the record, to explain to us and to them why it's necessary, why you can't proceed with the original approval.
well, when we bought the land, I didn't realize that when we bought the land, we were told that we could only build a smaller size house like that. I just thought we were building land. We have 4 children. The house would need to be a little bigger for us and our family, and we're hoping, you know, our kids and grandkids will come and to enjoy the house. So it's kind of hard to have a little house, and we have so many of us.
This was unknown to you in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, you could say we bought it within 2 hours. We didn't really put much thought
We
into
were
it.
just excited to be closer to the water.
Well, correct me. Did you buy it after it had received the approval that's here today?
No, do you mean the original approval?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
I don't know, it was just it was part of the real estate docs, I guess.
all right, so you bought it since this board approved it back in 2020.
Yes,
Yes.
All right. And then you bought it knowing that approval had been granted, right?
yes,
Okay. So despite that, you would like us to change the prior approval.
yes.
Yes,
And it's because you have a large family
large family, yes.
that you had when you bought, okay,
Yeah, I mean, we already have a property in Southtown.
Yeah.
We've basically outgrown it, and we came across this lot on a Saturday afternoon,
okay.
and you know, bought it within 2 hours. Didn't
Well-
put much thought into what was going to be built there.
It's so the thing that makes Southdown such a special place is the fact that there are so many community associations involved.
Right.
Right.
And the people that live there, as you know, if you live there, seem to be very concerned about the neighborhood and preserving things the way they are, so.
Right.
Should I bring this up now or
But during the public hearing portion?
do it during the public hearing portion? So we want to get the people that may actually, some of the letter writers may actually be on Zoom waiting to participate in this. So you're basically saying we changed our plans a little. We want to have more space for our family. We've outgrown the place that we're in.
Correct.
Basically, yes.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant at this point before we go to the public hearing? All right, sensing none, I'm going to declare the public hearing open at 6:41. You guys, why don't you sit right in the front row there and make room for anyone in the room here. Are there abutters here that would like to be heard here in the room? Any members of the public? Okay, we have someone online. And who do we have online? Hello? Is there someone online that would like to be heard about Drummer Trail? I see somebody. Is that Charlie?
It's Charlie.
Charge.
Or is it just an audio?
This is Jim Ryan from the Southdown Building Committee.
Hello, Jim Ryan. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hope everybody's doing well.
We are. Thank
Well,
you.
first of all, I want to thank the Laconia Planning Board. They've been a huge asset to us, and I try not to bother Dean that much. He'll tell you that. And this is strictly business. We have nothing against the owners, and we appreciate what they're trying to do. But this property has had a long history of being very wet. Southdown did not charge dues, association dues on this lot since 1987. And then 2 years ago, the owners applied for a CUP. The city zoning board granted it, and they were allowed to build a 1,224 square foot house that would be 30 feet from the wetlands, which we understand. We understand that people, own the lot and they have the right to build on that lot. And this size house, we would have had no problem with. Subsequently, I know that Brunel's bought the property, and they probably weren't aware that the house had, or the lot had restrictions on it. And they did present plans to us for a 1,824 square foot foundation. And based on the plans we had, was a 3-story house. It was 3 stories above a foundation. I'm not sure if that changed since they presented to us, but it would be about approximately 15 feet from the wetlands. And I know they had, plans to build a retaining wall, and I have some questions about that, but the abutters, they can tell you, they've had some issues with flooding over there. In fact, 46 Drummer, which is to the left of this property, right now, during rainstorms, he's got his swale in front of his house filled with water. And there's gonna have to be something done to put a pipe under his driveway to run the water down to right in front of this house where there's a storm drain. So there's some issues there and some current concerns that a bigger house with a bigger roof, with more water runoff into the wetlands, closer to the wetlands, would possibly, create more issues there. Again, the building committee has no problem. We understand that the city approved the 1,224 square foot CUP, 30 feet from the buffer zone, and we would definitely recommend that that's what the lot be required to build.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
you said you saw the plans?
Yes, I did. They submitted plans to us, I think, February.
Did you see the drainage plan?
I did.
Okay.
No,
Does that
by the way,
alleviate your concerns?
by the way, the last time that I was on the Zoom call when this was originally approved on, I think, April 7th, 2020. And it's part of I sent a letter in, and part of the letter, in fact, I spoke at the meeting. We requested that the city require a stormwater management plan to be submitted before any building permit would be issued. And I don't know if it was supposed to be attached to the file. I'm not sure if that's happened. I didn't see a stormwater management plan. I saw a plan from the Conservation Commission that called for a permeable paver driveway, rain gardens, and I think gutters that would be directed into the rain garden. I think those are the three things that I saw as far as for that. But I'm not an engineer. I don't pretend to be one. And I did see that there was a long stone wall, retaining wall, right along the wetland that wrapped around the back of this proposed house. So that's what I've seen, or we've seen.
This stormwater management plan, was that?
Yes.
What was it your understanding that the applicant was going to do that, or the city?
Well, no, the applicant. We asked that the city require the owners, whoever, and we didn't know who was going to build on this lot because, that's another story, but we didn't know who was going to build on this lot, and at that time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So we'll look into that and see if that's not a condition of approval, the board could certainly add it at this time.
I pulled the offline online. I pulled the minutes from that meeting, and it is in there that I requested that. So.
Right, but what I'm saying is if it was not included in the approval, that was that the board acted on. That was, by the way, I believe the first meeting that for the city of Laconia that we did entirely on Zoom.
Yeah, it was.
Right, April 7th.
Because I remember I was trying to talk and I wasn't getting through, and then my wife showed me that you have to raise your hand, which so I was screaming into my phone and nobody was listening. So yeah, I remember that very well.
Well, we're light years from that now.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We're right on top of it all. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Yes,
is there
you're welcome.
anyone else online that wants to be heard? Mr. Mora?
Nobody else has raised their hand to indicate that they wish to speak.
Are there any members of the public or abutters online in the vitreous anywhere that would like to be heard? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, we'll close the public hearing then at 6:48 p.m. and we'll ask the staff to fill us in, maybe starting with the stormwater management plan.
Sure. The current property owners, the applicants, have got a DES permit to build the retaining wall and to fill, I forget the exact number, but I think it's around 750 square feet of actual wetland,
Really?
delineated wetland. So they have their DES permit. DES has reviewed their plans and granted the permit. Concerning the stormwater maintenance plan that was requested 2 years ago, we do not currently have a building permit application. I know that the plans for the building have been before the Southbound folks, but we have not seen the actual building plans. We don't have a building permit applied for. So therefore, we're not in a position to require a stormwater plan because we don't have a building permit application. But we will follow up on that when we get a building permit application.
Well, they're just before us to amend the CUP tonight.
Correct.
So that we can do. They know that they will then have to get a building permit.
Right. They have been to Conservation Commission. We have a few of the requirements in here that are the result of their visit to the Conservation Commission, specifically the creation of the rain garden to handle the roof runoff.
Yep.
And the permeable pavers for the driveway. And we've also talked to them about things like fertilizer and erosion controls that they're going to need to install to build the structure.
Was the DES approval, is that time limited? Like, do they have so long before it expires?
They
or-
do, but it's 3 or 4 years.
And was that approval based on the original
No, it's
Site
based on
plan?
this plan that is before you tonight.
for the larger house?
The larger house, which in order to keep lawn and et cetera out of the actual delineated wetland, the solution was the retaining wall so that they had less of an impact on the potential wetland.
Okay. And so they were only before us tonight, really, then for the wetland buffer, right? The incursion into the wetland buffer.
The amendment would include additional encroachment onto the buffer, but also into the actual wetland, although they have the DES permit to do that as well. But I think that your CUP approval, if you choose to approve, should include encroachment into the buffer and encroachment into the actual wetland per the DES permit.
And a drainage plan or a profile, has that been filed?
We do not have that at this moment.
And
no.
that's also because they need to actually apply for the building permit, right?
Correct. I mean, we have talked to them about drainage and how they're going to handle it. And that is particularly at Conservation Commission. And that was the reason that the rain garden got created and the drip edge around the roofs to try to, control the water as much as possible.
Conservation, Stacy, did Conservation have any comments or about this project?
Everything that Dean said, and then also to do silt socks instead of a silt fence.
Okay. All right.
I will remind the board that this is a lot of record, has been for 35 years or more.
Oh, sure.
I understand the contention of the Southbound folks where they did not collect fees, association fees on the property
Well, that's not
for a
relevant.
number of years, but that's not our decision.
Right.
And
Yeah. But we can assure them, of course, that we will be looking at the stormwater drainage, and they already have a permit from DES that's going to require them to ameliorate the impact on the wetland. So things like a culvert under the driveway would be part of their building permit process, right?
absolutely.
Okay. Excellent. Sure.
Dean, you mentioned this amended application involves the encroachment, additional encroachment on the wetland. Does it also include the additional square footage to the structure, the 600 square foot addition to the foundation?
The CUP is for encroachment into the buffer. It is not real. I mean, obviously it is related to the size of the structure.
That larger.
But the original CUP was also encroachment into the buffer, even with a smaller structure. There is very little space on this lot that is out of the actual buffer.
Right.
So the additional square footage and the encroachment on the buffer are tied together, really.
Correct.
Okay,
I got a question for you.
sure.
I realize DES permit's been issued. How about alteration of terrain has been issued also?
It's not large enough for that.
Didn't meet the square footage?
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. So as I understand it, then the question before us is whether to amend the prior conditional use permit regarding encroachment into the 50-foot wetland buffer, the actual wetland encroachment having already been permitted by DES. And that is an amendment, they've amended it, not just, they haven't just changed the boundaries. They're going to be constructing a retaining wall. That's all, that's part of the CUP, right?
Part of the CUP and part of their DES permit.
Okay. So, and then as long as the board understands that the concerns of Mr. Ryan and his constituency would be addressed at the next step. But the board is well aware of those concerns and planning will follow up. The department will follow up. So would someone care to make a motion?
Can we have a discussion?
Oh, sure.
I have at least one concern, and that is by accepting this amended application, would we be overriding the authority of the Rosedown Village Association in any way, you know, in their desire to control their community standards and building, you know?
You're
No,
asking me, I don't think this board has any
mean, at this-
authority to enforce or to take notice of those things. That's the applicant's responsibility is to comply with, that's a contractual relationship between the owners and the Southdown people.
So at this juncture, if we were.
They're abutters when we're certainly taking that into consideration.
So at this juncture, if we were to approve this amendment, would we be overriding the authority of the association? Or could that still be contested further down the process?
This board is the only board that has authority over a conditional use permit in the city of Laconia.
But to further answer
Yes.
Scott's question, if the Southdown folks or an abutter disagrees with the decision that this board makes, either way, or the applicant, either way, they have the right to appeal.
Right.
And then it becomes, you know, essentially a civil matter of, and then and over and above that, the enforcement of specific rules, regulations, covenants, et cetera, that may be applicable to this property is definitely a civil matter, and we don't deal in those matters.
Right.
So our authority relates to the conditional use permit only,
Correct.
really.
As it relates to the wetland buffer. Yes.
Right. Because the way you would phrase the question, it made me think, well, you know, they don't have any authority to do that, but there is always a mechanism for public input, not only tonight, but by appeal. Anyone else have any questions?
would it be possible to table it until a building permit is actually in hand, or?
What would be the advantage of that?
I guess only because I'm not comfortable voting on something without it.
Well, I guess I don't understand how that would help. Maybe, what do you think, Dean? We have concerns from abutters that we've essentially answered by saying we're not there yet because they haven't filed for a plan, a building permit. Right. Whatever we approve tonight, they can't get a building permit that violates what we've approved, or is contrary to what we've approved.
Correct.
If they try to do that, they may well be back before us a third time.
Correct.
So if we table it, all we're doing is delaying the inevitable 30 days, aren't we?
I would point out to the board, we have not required any other applicant to have a building permit in to obtain approval.
Usually it's done, but not always.
No, very rarely do we have a building permit in hand for any project of any size.
Oh, all right. I guess it would make sense that they need this approval first before they're gonna
They do. We
shell out the
we usually
additional
advise them,
money.
don't spend the money on applying for a building permit until you have all your.
Because like the contractors often pull permits when they have, they need approvals first.
Got you. Okay.
And so we're just we're the bridging gap between the general land use regulations and the individual applicant. And then from that point on, it's really all code and zoning, which is not our purview. So good
So
question.
then I guess
though.
I would be even more comfortable if it had the blessing of the association so that it doesn't turn into a front page story like Governor's Island.
All right. Well, we can't really
Just
control the
throwing
press,
that out
can't
there.
we? I mean, what I'm getting at is I don't see that what the board is being asked to do tonight is newsworthy in any way. The news is going to come down the line, either good news or bad. We're just being asked to approve a conditional use permit. Go ahead, make a motion to table it if you want. I don't care.
No, not, I didn't realize about the building permits.
Michael, you look like.
What
you
are
wanna
we
say-
discussing? Just these little shaded areas along the retaining wall? Is that all that the issue is?
Basically, yes.
Yes,
Because it looks pretty minuscule to me.
it's not a great deal of change to the actual site.
It's like 190.
It's a bigger house,
Square
but-
feet
Yeah,
into the wetland. But I think the big thing that's not pictured is the original one for the 1,200 square foot was staying 30 feet off of the wetland.
right.
No, that's not true. It was still encroaching on the buffer.
It was in the buffer,
It
but
was
it
in the
didn't,
buffer,
there
but
was no
not the
filling of
wetland.
There
wetlands.
was no filling of wetland.
Right.
Right. But what had been said before was that it was still 30 feet off of the wetland, which would be in the buffer.
Right, but the current buffer is 50 feet.
Right, but
So the CUP
according
was
to
for
these
30.
plans, then they're going up to 15 feet from the wetlands
Yes.
and then encroaching also in those three spots.
Correct.
I think the thing is, DES already gave the approval to do this. They have confidence in it. That little bit of an amendment. Do we shoot it down when DES has already said, hey, they think it'll work? We have to put our confidence in the technical review committee that looks at the actual building plans and the grading plans when they're done. And if something's gonna not work, they pick it up.
Yeah.
They shoot it down. It's not for us.
Okay, well, what is the pleasure of the board? I guess the question is whether we approve this proposal to amend PL 2020-0018 CUP 56 Drummer Trail.
May I put forth a motion?
Oh, you can just say so moved, because I just read it.
So move.
I like the way you did that. Someone care to second that motion? Second by Mr. Delvecchia. Any further discussion? Sensing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Biotti,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchio,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy your new home and sounds wonderful. It's in a beautiful neighborhood. Okay. We're moving along now. This is Race Point Road, PL 2022-0010 CUP. It looks like we need we need to accept the application. Is it in order and ready for acceptance?
It is.
All right.
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept has been
Second.
made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, please, may we have a roll call?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Biotti,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchio,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right. The application has been accepted. It's before us. Is the applicant present? Ah, my
Yes.
Goodness, look at you. You may proceed, Attorney Brouillard.
Attorney Phil Brouillard for the Vizina Trusts, owner of this property. Also with me is Jessica Bailey, who did all the soils work and the wetlands work in this matter. I think it's quite fortuitous that we're talking about this right after the Drummer Trail one, because it's a similar situation, but it's actually quite worse in terms of this particular lot has been a lot of record since the late 80s. And this particular lot has no upland that is not within a wetlands buffer. So we had to carefully consult the planning department, the Conservation Commission, and we came up with a plan to move the property into the side setback, and we got a variance for that to maintain the most possible distance that we could from the actual wetlands. And so we have gotten a recommendation from the Conservation Commission. The application before you incorporates all their recommendations. We got our approval from the Zoning Board of Adjustment for the incursion into the side setback to keep the property away from the wetlands and to have a rain garden and other things that Jessica's going to explain in a moment. And then basically, we're here before you for our wetlands CUP. We feel that we have a very meritorious application, and it's ends up being a small home that is sandwiched into this area here, a one-car garage and a small home here that preserves the wetlands and preserves the sort of the entire ambiance of the roadway area and the roadway. It's also 49 feet from the closest structure, and it has a covered walkway from the garage to the house. So if you would, Jessica, if you could explain some of the difficulties that we tried to over. Yeah.
Well, we prepared this application much like we did the Drummer Trail application. Phil and I were the ones that did the original approval for Drummer Trail that you just amended. We have created a rain garden, which is a wetland buffer enhancement. We can't meet the current zoning for the wetland buffer. It is an existing lot of record to be built on. The wetland buffer rain garden that I have prepared and created allows to replace a buffer that cannot be met. It allows for filtration of sediments and toxins. It allows for water to be slowly absorbed into the groundwater. It takes out any kinds of the stormwater from the roof. I've also added a impervious patio to allow for a sitting area.
Pervious.
Pervious. So it's been a long few days working hard. So where Drummer Trail had a permeable driveway, we're having a permeable small patio. To a concern of the Conservation Commission's was, if I didn't create it, a future homeowner would do it without the same mindset. So by creating the patio, there's your outside sitting area. That's also an infiltration system, a do-it-yourself stormwater. Not a stormwater system prepared by a civil engineer.
So,
Understood.
and so basically, we've designed this modest style home to fit in this area and maintain setbacks from the wetland of 3.1, 5.5, 5.3 from the actual wetlands. And we're encroaching 4 feet into the setback to push the house back so that we're not in the actual wetlands. We also adopted some of the all the recommendations of the Conservation Commission, which included having these markers made that are going to go along the entire area of the wetlands, and Jessica had 300 of them made, and they'll be deployed here. And she's also going to monitor, as part of the ZBA approval, she's going to monitor the clearing and tree cutting on the site for when the site is developed. And we've got.
ZBA also asked for a 1-year follow-up of the rain garden for successful establishment of the vegetation.
Good idea.
And the.
What are these constructed of?
They're metal. They're just like the ones your Conservation Commission has.
Yeah, okay.
And the Conservation Commission also wanted some conditions in the deed, which the deed is part of the application. But the deed said this conveyance is subject to the following conditions and restrictions to benefit wetlands. There will be no wetland filling in the future on the premises. There will be no accessory structures on the lot. There will be no removal, cutting, or filling of the rain garden on the premises. And snow from the driveway may not be stored in the wetlands on the premises.
What about impervious surfaces?
The only impervious surfaces that are currently a part of this application is going to be the structure's roof and the driveway.
Yes, and Chairman, there's area here where when the driveway comes in, the snow can be pushed over here away from the wetlands, and that's where the garage is, right here.
Well, how about the inverse then? What's to keep them in the future from covering over the pervious patio and making it impervious? Can you add that to the covenant?
We could.
They shall not increase or decrease the pervious.
Can we just tune it into the patio?
It's the only part of it that you're.
I'm unclear on your question.
He wants to make sure that the patio never gets to be.
We can approve it right now, and then the owner could go and pave his patio if he wanted to. Or cover it with
I
a,
just wanted to be clear. That's how I thought.
you know, the lawn chairs are sinking in between the tiles and all that.
How about any patio must be constructed with pervious
Pervious material.
Yeah.
Well, porous technology or permeable technology. 'cause
It's
there
permeable.
There are different alternatives.
Whatever word you think as the engineer.
Well, I'm a certified wetland scientist, but I do,
Any patio shall be constructed
not a civil
with
engineer.
permeable technology.
Yes. I would think.
And I'm just gonna put permeable.
Right, that way, if the subsequent owner can't come back to us and say, well, I had no idea I couldn't put flagstones there or something. Not that it would ever happen. Okay,
And so we have gotten our variance to push back into the setback. It's allowed us to stay out of the wetlands. We're not in the wetlands at all. We don't need a DES permit. We don't need any federal permit. We don't need any alteration of terrain permit. We don't need anything except a CUP from you guys.
okay.
Now, is there anything else that you can think of?
I think it's, if the board has any additional questions or if they need a little clarification.
That's where I was going next. Any members of the board have any questions for the applicant's representatives? Stacy?
So I still see on the application over here with shed.
Oh, no.
It didn't, that obviously did not get updated because the shed portion has been entirely removed.
The shed is gone. And that's what the deed says too, Stacy. It says no accessory structures.
They shed the shed.
Well, we shed the shed at the Conservation Commission.
So it's been well shedded.
It's been well.
Just making sure that
It
little
was still on
black
the plans of the
square.
ZBA.
There will be no accessory structures on the lot. It's in the deed, the deed.
No accessories. Oh. That's pretty good. Way ahead of us. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, then, why don't we see if there are any members of the public? We'll call a public hearing, 7:15 PM. Are there any abutters here this evening? Come on up to the podium as soon as Attorney Brouillard moves along. Please let's go right up to the mic there. State your name if you would. You don't have to lean in, just stand there. It's fine.
Rhonda Hokinson.
Well, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
So where are you located at?
30 Exeter Place.
All right.
It's a cul-de-sac.
Mhm.
And if you know Southbound in that area, the way that they engineered that was actually very poorly designed because it comes down almost like a funnel. And right where our driveway is where all the rainwater comes in. They engineered a swale to go down the side of the property, down the backyard, and then into that wetland area.
Mm.
So all that water that comes in is going right down into there. And it very rarely dries up unless it's there, we have a drought or a very dry season in the summertime, but it's mostly wet all the time.
When
We
you
can't
say
even-
there, where, do you mean in the center of
That
the?
entire back of our yard is all wetlands.
It's all wetland, okay.
And we can't even grow grass in that area because it's so moist.
Okay. How do you believe that this application,
For several reasons. Why are we destroying conservation wetlands to build for monetary gains? Number one. Number two, they're encroaching on the setback that was originally designed for that land.
well, it's been designed, I think, a few times by various. It's a lot of record for quite some time. How long have you lived where you're at?
5 years.
Okay, so it was a lot of record when you bought it.
And that's part of the reason that we did buy is because we know that it was wetlands and conservation and that couldn't be built on.
We also know that the owner of the land currently sold the land to another party who in fact brought the owner to court and sued them to get his money back because he was unable to build on that land because it was determined wetlands. Now we're back again looking for variances to build on this wetland. And they're doing it in a different way, looking to get a CUP.
Okay. How will it impact your property? If this, if we approve their conditional use permit?
Where is the
encroachment in the
drainage gonna
wetlands.
go?
You have
Okay,
drainage issues, and then there's also the, right next to our property, 5 feet from the property line.
all right. Why don't we ask the applicant to explain if these folks' property will be impacted in any way?
It actually will not be. I know the portion of the property, the rear along the boundary. There is actually a 3 to 4 foot elevation rise between the surface of the wetland and the backyards.
Their backyard?
I don't know what specific lot, but the 3 lots that I have walked the boundary of, that my lot abuts on the rear. I'll also mention that those 3 lots, whoever owns them, keep throwing their brush piles and their clippings and all sorts of other woody debris over the line into that wetland, which is technically filled.
Right. It could impede the flow of stormwater.
And
Probably.
this building is not in the wetlands. That is incorrect. And the other thing that's incorrect is the people that bought the lot did not want to go through the CUP process. So they didn't go through the CUP process, and my clients bought the lot back because that was the most expedient.
Oh, I see.
But they didn't want to do the CUP process.
This is a
So
more
this is totally-
expensive, yeah.
Everything they said is totally.
Well,
And one would need to take a mention that the lot has been a built lot of records since 1980-ish. And I don't know exactly when the city of Laconia adopted its current wetland buffer zoning.
And it's not incurring into their.
And that's why we can apply for the variances from the setback, because when the lot was created, the particular setback did not exist.
okay, let me relate it back to these folks. Are you in one of the 3 lots behind that she referred to?
Yes.
Okay. Sure, do you understand what she said about the difference in elevation? So there shouldn't be any impact, meaning stormwater on this lot that we're discussing tonight should not end up on your property. It may end up as part of the larger wetland that you guys all live adjacent to, right? So, and there will be specifics, as you've heard probably earlier, for drainage at the building permit stage. So, I guess, Dean, did you?
Not only that, but they'll be monitoring by Jessica when the house is cleared and make sure that the wetlands aren't.
Oh, that's right. That's an extra step that we probably should think about putting in more often. They're gonna actually go back and make sure that all the foliage that they're gonna, the vegetation that they're going to plant, that will help filter the runoff and slow it, actually takes root.
As we know, water runs downhill, and our land is actually lower than that property that's there. So any water runoff at all is going to be.
I think she said there was a rise of elevation between the properties.
And that's only a small section.
Okay. All right.
Almost kids.
Is that Charlie on the, right there? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
One other, I just got a question, just.
Sure.
For the record, is there any conflict of interest with the representative party here and board? Knowing anybody?
What do you mean? Attorney
Any
Brouillard?
acquaintances, friendships?
Well, no, I don't think there's any member of the board that would need to recuse.
Okay. Just want to know.
Mr. Wilkinson,
Yes.
I'm looking at the map here and I don't see your property. Can you just take a peek here for me? Or point it out on the large map?
Yeah, on the plan there.
I'm trying to figure that out. So our property is in this vicinity here.
So this is Ferncroft Village. Your property would be out here.
Oh, yeah.
Where there is a natural swale that drains the portion of this wetland. And I'll even show you, I'll read the elevations. The edge of the wetland is at 588. Two contours above, it goes up to 594. That's almost
6 feet.
8 feet of elevation of rise.
So you're saying that all these trees in here are not going to be disturbed at all?
No, that's why I'm monitoring it. That's why I am so actively
That-
monitoring this whole development.
They're sneaking the whole building right into that little hourglass shaped
Is
place.
over here.
Right, and all this is all trees, and the water literally flows all the way down and all the way out.
It flows this way and this way to a clogged culvert.
And the reason it was unsold for so long was because of the high cost of engineering and approval of trying to get a building of any decent size on a lot like that. That's probably why it's one of the last lots in that area available.
And that's 1,200 square foot home?
I believe that's the
'Cause there
plan.
isn't a
No,
building.
the home is
Plan.
700 and something, then the garage. Altogether, it's
The house is
1,150.
792, it's a covered walkway, 122, and the garage is 240.
And there isn't a shed or a deck like there was in the
There's,
last
there's,
meeting.
there's no shed and there's a permeable paver, small patio.
It can have a second story, but it can't have. a
Paver, the
walkout.
patio is only 70
You
square
can't have a
feet.
walkout. Is that what you said? Okay.
So right now, it's a single level, but possibly could be a second story.
Well, it probably will be a second.
But you wouldn't see any of it because your property is here. And then you just pointed out to the board that you are completely blinded by all the trees.
Right.
I don't have my glasses, so I can't even see.
Yeah.
I don't think these would work.
Your property is over here because this is where that cul-de-sac is,
Where is Exeter Place then on this map?
over here.
Off the map. And there's nothing but trees I'm hearing between your
Right
house.
here is Ferncroft. Right here is Fox Village. Right over here is Admiral's Way.
And right here is,
So
Right
basically
here is our
Mike-
yard.
Mike's here and then the other guy's here.
It shouldn't really have much impact on you. I can understand your concern.
Well, we've talked to Southbound, the person in charge of, actually, I think it was the guy that was just on the meeting tonight. And
Mr.
about the
Ryan.
problem that we have with that water coming down that cul-de-sac, because we actually had half our front yard covered with dirt one year because of the problem. And he agreed that it definitely was an engineering flaw and that swale
Guys
is,
to replace though.
it's that cul-de-sac that comes down, but then they just bring that swale all the way down the side of our property right into the back.
Right, which
But
everyone's
that's-
been using this as a dumping ground. Everyone's been shoving their water here because it's the lack of a growth management ordinance back in the 80s.
Probably, yeah. Do you have any other questions for us or the applicants, sir?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
Mr. Chair,
You got a copy of this?
Yes,
Mr. Chair, I just wanted, I wanted to address the gentleman that just spoke.
It's not gonna. affect-
yeah, hang on one second.
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. St. Clair has, I think, a response or something he wanted to say to you. He's a member of the board who's out there in the mists this evening.
Far away.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Well, just the remark you made about, why are we filling in wetlands or why is anybody doing that? I just want you to know, I totally agree with that statement, but I'm not an expert on that. And so what I watch for, and I'm not speaking for the rest of the board, but I think they kind of watch for the same thing. I think Brett alluded to it earlier. If the Conservation Board or the DES comes out and checks all this stuff out, does their job, and they're okay with it, then I'm okay with it. In the back of my mind, I don't want to lose any more wetlands than we lose now. But if they're making exceptions, and I just want you to know that I take that into consideration and I go along with that because that's their expertise. At least I think it is. I rely on. But that's all I wanted to say. I just didn't want you to think that, none of us care or I don't care about wetlands being encroached on or buffer zones or any of that stuff. I depend on these other boards and departments doing their jobs to watch for that. So I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thanks a lot. Are there any other members of the public or abutters that wish to be heard?
I would just like to segue onto what Charlie said to this gentleman, that we have tried from the beginning of this to do this in the most environmentally sensitive way possible. We've consulted every board, we've gone everywhere, we've shared these plans with everybody. We've taken everybody's recommendations to heart. We've put them in the plans. We'll put the thing about the permeable paver thing in the deed. And we are not in the wetlands. We tried real hard to make sure that we're not. We got a variance, so we didn't have to be.
Right.
So I just want you to know, we believe that too. We tried, we feel we've done everything. We've left it all in the field. We have made this the best proposal that it can be for this particular lot. And I just agree with what Charlie said.
Right. Sometimes the cost of having all that stuff done is an impediment to development of any lot too, so. All right.
Do you have a letter from an abutter?
Yes.
I do? Oh, I didn't know I had one on this. This is Drummer Trail. I thought they were all Drummer Trail. I don't know what this is, but it looks like a UFO picture.
That's the.
Oh, here we go.
James Ryan.
If you could just acknowledge the letter and who it's from, Peter, you know.
That's what I'm trying to find. Oh, it's from Mr. Ryan again. We did, yes, indeed, we did receive comments from the SDRA BC.
Yep.
And Mr. Ryan. And it doesn't raise any issues that we haven't heard from.
He's online as well.
Oh, he is online. Mr. Ryan.
Well, I've got another person queued up beforehand. There's another gentleman waiting in queue here.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, we'll get to Mr. Ryan in a minute then. Who do we have on the prize line tonight?
They don't have their name in there.
There are two,
Arlene
whoever you
Helmig.
are.
Arlene Helmig.
Oh, hi there.
Hi there. I live at 21 Race Point Road.
Can you give us your name again so we get it right for the record, please?
Arlene Helmig.
Did you spell your last name for us old timers?
Sure. Helmig.
Thank you, Ms. Helming. You may proceed.
Okay, I live across the street, downhill from this property. And I experienced flooding, quite a bit of flooding during certain seasons. So much so that it's 6 inches above my downstairs door. So I'm concerned when they start moving this around, this swale that they're referring to, this drainage is not doing the job. So I don't want to see this get worse for obvious reasons.
Understood. Have you seen the plans? Have you been able to see the?
I only saw what you put online. I never saw the house plans or anything else you're showing tonight. I'm
Well,
no
tonight-
expert. I'm no expert, no engineer, but there's a lot of water flowing downhill here.
Well, there are experts here, and so they'll correct me if I misstate this, but my understanding is that what's before us tonight is the approval of a site plan that will not, should not increase the flow off the property, except as the current system of wetlands. I mean, you have wetlands on your lot probably too, right?
Probably not. No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I've only lived here for a short time. I'm sure Mr. Ryan can answer that better than I.
Okay, but you
He
say
knows
it
that.
floods
I flood.
periodically.
Yeah, we have a culvert under our driveway.
Okay,
Okay, we have a river flowing down to another drainage system, but none of it compensates for the water off that side of the street,
okay.
which I don't want to see get worse because I'll have no grass left.
Well, how about if I ask the soil scientist who's here with us tonight
Good. Okay,
to explain whether this, if we approve this, it will increase the runoff on your property.
Well, perhaps it should correct it too. From that particular lot.
Well, I think that's, the issue is, will it have an adverse effect on any of the adjoining properties? That's the issue we're looking at.
And the answer is, I don't know. A drainage analysis would have to be completed.
Okay.
Right. And that's
So-
kind of what I want to see. I'm not in here to stop anybody from doing anything.
However, I would say that I'm going to probably save this for Dean to say, but there is some dysfunction with the Southdown road drainage. And this lot is there and it's a lot of record and it's not doing anything. And they're still having all these problems. So as it is, without anything, they got problems that has nothing to do with this proposal.
And as with the previous application, that's something that the staff and zoning folks will take care of once the building permits are applied for.
That's correct.
Right, right. So what we're approving tonight, ma'am, is the site plan itself, which we have been told will have an estimated or certain delineated effect on the existing conditions. And after that, then it's up to the city to fine tune and approve the building plans for the purpose of, if necessary, with your neighbors or through the community built your association, or even with the city's assistance, to improve the stormwater drainage overall in the neighborhood. Okay?
Not particularly, but I will accept that.
Well, there's only so much we can do. We have to deal with this one parcel at a time.
No, I understand that. I just don't want to, I don't want to see it getting worse. And I know what construction does, so,
Understood.
okay.
Yep, we will take that into consideration. All right. So, is Mr. Ryan up next? Are you back with us, Mr. Ryan? Oh, that's right. You have to promote them? Mr. Ryan?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, finally.
Did you
I
want to
got through.
speak with us about 53
I
Race
do.
Point Road?
Oh, I certainly do.
What would
First
you
of
like?
all,
Sure.
like Arlene mentioned, it's very wet over there. And I'm not an engineer. I don't pretend to be an engineer. But this lot is, and I've been over there, by the way, personally, because one of the former owner who owned that lot was on the building committee. And I went over with him one day to look at the lot, and I'm very familiar with it, very wet. And I just wanted to ask a few questions. First of all, do the current lot owners plan to build on this lot?
I don't know.
Okay. Because we don't know what the real end goal is here. Is it just to get a CUP to make this lot marketable, or is it to build on? So we just wanted to know that. And without plans, it's pretty difficult to determine what this house is going to look like. And it says on the plan, 792 square feet footprint. And I've done some research in Vision. The average footprint of the homes on Race Point Road is currently 1,612 square feet. And the average footprint of condos in Ferncroft is actually 952 square feet. So both of these surrounding neighborhoods are going to have much larger houses than this little house. It's going to have a garage, detached garage. It's going to have a walkway that you're going to have to go from the garage to the house. And Southdown has rules, just like the city has rules, just like the state has rules. And Southdown requires that houses be in harmony with the surrounding area. And this house, in our opinion, is not going to be in harmony. So it's going to be an issue. And I just want to go on record right now to say that there's going to be some could be some potential issues. And again, it's South Downs rules, and we have rules just like everybody else, and we do our best to enforce city rules, and we're going to enforce South Down rules. So as far as wetlands, I mean, this house is going to be right smack dab and very close to them. And we really would like the city to postpone or delay this approval of the CUP until, house plans can be submitted, and when we can all take a look at them and see what's going to be proposed. And if it makes sense, then we go from there. But at this point, because of the wet conditions and the size of the lot, the size of the house, the proximity to the drainage, it's going to be right on the edge of this big drainage swale. We're concerned, and we really would like the city to delay this meeting until more information can be gathered.
Okay, I think what you're asking us to do is sort of beyond the jurisdiction of the board, though.
Okay.
We are being asked to approve a conditional use permit based upon a very specific plan on that lot. We certainly don't have, the applicant knows whether the applicant intends to build or not, that whoever builds has to agree to abide by the association's rules.
Right.
Okay, that's not within our jurisdiction. So we hear what you're saying, that's for sure.
Okay, well, if we could just revert back to Drummer Trail for a second. The
I
city
don't
plan-
really want to do that.
Okay.
We've
all right,
already,
then we won't. Okay.
if there's anything else about this particular application you'd like to get on the record, this is your chance to do it.
Yeah, this, again, I just want to reiterate that we strongly recommend that this be deferred at this time. And because of the nature of this lot and the concerns.
Any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Ryan? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Ryan.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very
Take
much.
care.
You too.
Are there any other abutters or members of the public that would like to be heard? Anyone in the queue, Mr. Mora?
Nobody else has raised their hand to indicate they wish to speak.
And everyone seems to be awake in here, and none of them are moving towards the podium. So we will declare the public hearing closed at 7:41. And we will turn the spotlight on Mr. Trefethan.
So just to reiterate a few points here, under the proposal and the drawings that we have, there are no actual wetlands encroachment with this plan. It's buffer only. They did obtain a variance already from the zoning board to move the structure away from the wetlands so that the structure would not be in the wetland, and so that there would be a little bit of space. It's minimal, but there a little bit of space around the structure that also is not in the wetland. It's a few feet, but it's the reason for the variance. We have been presented a very specific plan here in terms of size and location, and there really is no other place for the structure to go without having to go back to either the zoning board if they move it or increase its size in the direction of Ferncroft, or if they try to do something towards the wetland. I mean, you're in this very specific and very detailed space that you have to be in. So when a building permit comes in, we will be looking for conformity to this plan, assuming that you approve, of course. I do want to address two things here that probably not obvious to everyone. First one is if there are stormwater issues, either at Exeter Place or on Race Point currently, that is the responsibility of the Southdown Recreational Association.
I thought that. So
All of their utilities, including stormwater, are privately owned and owned by Southdown. If there's an issue, then that's who they need to go talk to. This particular property has two storm drains in front of it. The first one is just above where the driveway is going to be, as you look at the plan that's presented. Rob and I and our conservation technician were out to the site a few weeks ago. That storm drain had water flowing through it. It happened to be that one of those very nice warm days we had about 2 weeks ago, and the snow was melting like there's no tomorrow, and there was water going through that, a lot of water. You could hear it and you can see it. There is another drainage that is technically on the property, the subject property of the application, that has been indicated to us that it is blocked. Even though that storm water drain is on that property, it is still the responsibility of Southdown, in conjunction with the property owner, if they have to maintain that system. So if there's flooding elsewhere in the Race Point area, it could be because that storm drain is.
when you say storm drain, you mean a catch basin?
Catch basin, right.
Okay.
We
So
don't
the one
know-
in front on the street by where the driveway is going to be, you could hear the water running through it.
Yep.
And the other one was blocked.
The other one's blocked.
And whose responsibility is it to keep them from getting clogged? Is it the property owner or the association?
I would say it's a combination of both, but the high level of responsibility is the association. If the homeowner's not taking care of it, again, they need to do something to make sure that it is. Either they take care of it themselves or they take some form of a civil action to make the property owner take care of it.
See, I've never had the pleasure of being a member of a building association, but if major work had to be done to improve
I don't-
drainage,
yeah, go ahead.
that would be assessed against the owners of the
Yeah,
members
and
of the association.
I don't think this is really the building association, the building committee of Southdown's responsibility. I think it's the executive
Recreation.
board of the Southdown Recreational Association.
Okay.
as
They have
opposed
so
to-
many
Yes, they do.
associations.
You know, and there's a local association for this road as well. So, I mean, there's a responsibility here that needs to be, if there's an issue now.
It's a private one, though.
It's a private one, and there's a responsibility that needs to be done.
Point
The second thing that I want to say, and this relates to the other one as well, I guess, but we're on this one, so I'll relate it to this one. I understand the concern of neighbors who have been told over the years, rightly or wrongly, that you can't build on this lot because it's all wetlands, et cetera, et cetera. And I hear this about a lot of lots in the city, not just in Southdown, but everywhere. And in many cases, it's not true, as we can see right now. You know, regardless of what has been said in the neighborhood for years, you can build on this if you do all the things that need to be done. And so I would say to the various associations that are out there, that where you have these vacant lots that are questionable in quality, don't wait for the next building permit to come along and complain to us, but rather try to be proactive and buy that property. And therefore, it truly won't be buildable because it'll be owned by the association.
Right.
And there aren't that many lots left in Southdown that are vacant. There are still some. And guess what? Most of them have these kinds of problems on.
And they create such a pleasant place to live that there's pressure there. People want to move in.
Right.
And when they, you know, it's like infill development anywhere else.
Absolutely.
It's always the hardest to build on that gets built last.
Now, the good land's gone.
Right.
You know, that was done a long time ago.
Yeah, in the 80s.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and neighbors sometimes are their own worst enemy. We saw this on Woodville Drive a couple of years ago with another application where the vacant lot gets to be the dumping site.
Yeah.
People dump their leaves, they dump their brush, et cetera, et cetera. And the other thing that is told to me all the time, particularly in Southdown, and I'm not picking on Southdown, I'm just, these are statements of fact, but this is another thing that I'm told all the time in Southdown. We have a rule that says you can't drain your stormwater from your property onto someone else's property. This is exactly what's happening here, and it's happening across the street from the woman who spoke as well.
Right.
There is stormwater coming from somewhere in the neighborhood and it's going across her property. If it truly is a Southdown rule, Southdown needs to deal with it. I mean, that they are a private community, private roads, private utilities, et cetera, et cetera. This is what everyone signed up for when they went to Southdown. And it's, you know, and I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but you know, in some ways, some of these things need to be said on occasion and remind people that there's a responsibility collectively that is beyond this particular application.
Right.
So with that said, as you can see, we are recommending approval given the conditions. This has been to the Conservation Commission. We have the deed restrictions, which they're still working on there for you. They're going to create a rain garden. We have restraints on fertilizer and
Inspection requirement.
and
in there.
inspection requirements
Yep.
follow up after the fact. And again, we have not seen a building permit for this. But when you look at page 3 of this plan, yes, page three, you can see a very definitive proposed structure, garage, walkway, and house. And it would be our expectation, because I also have the building department, as you know, it would be our expectation that any application for a building permit will adhere to what is before you today, either the same size or smaller.
It would have to, or it'd violate the approval. It's so tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions for staff about? Yes.
Dean, I had in my notes from conservation that they were told no basement for the house. Was that a restriction?
I think someone had mentioned no walkout.
Yeah,
so
There's
maybe-
no walkout. There's no living area in the basement. The topography.
Oh, but it's not going to be a slab?
It's not gonna be a slab. It's gonna be like a crawl space.
Yeah.
Half foundation,
Okay.
but it's not gonna be. The grades don't allow for it.
I have a question, Dean, just for clarification. This one, unlike the Drummer Trail, didn't need the DES approval because they're not actually affecting the wetland itself, correct?
Correct.
Just the conservation suffices for this one.
They are in the buffer. All of this lot is either wetland or buffer. There is no.
Right.
That's all it is.
No holy ground.
Right. Any other questions for staff? Well, what is the pleasure of the board?
Excuse me.
When we heard Attorney Bulliard explain that the problem exists without this lot being developed. This lot is not the source of the issue.
Right.
And Miss Jessica seemed to come up with a good plan to take care of anything that this lot will produce. So they will not, this lot won't be the issue of all the issues they're having. It's not this lot's fault. So I'm leaning in favor of approval.
So would you care to make a motion
Oh,
then,
sure.
Michael?
I'll make a motion that we approve PL, excuse me, 2022-0010 CUP wetland permit for Race Point Road, MBL 244-295-9. As long as it's all conditions put forth by the building department and everything is to plan.
Motion made by Mr. Delvecchia. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And we have a second from Mr. Bellevue. Any further discussion on this? All right, then I'll call the roll, please, Kalina.
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Beatty,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchio.
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. Lakeside Avenue, Tower Hill Tavern. That must be a new place. I never heard of them before. PL 2013-0100 SP amended 3. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
I am fine. Would
Everybody.
you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Anthony Santagate, and I own Tower Hill Tavern down at the Weirs.
Well, good evening, sir. What can we do for you?
I would like to stay open till 2 o'clock if I can. Or at least have the option to stay open till 2.
Seems to me we very recently said that you couldn't go past 1. Didn't we?
Years ago, some years ago.
Oh, well, you don't want to go too far back now.
No, I don't.
Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt, you need to accept this plan. this-
Oh,
this,
is
application.
the, I'm sorry, just a second, Mr. Santagate. Is the application in order and ready for acceptance?
Yes.
Okay. Would, that being so, would someone care to?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I move that we accept application PL 2013-0100 SP with amendment 3 as submitted.
Motion, second?
Second.
Second. All right, you have a roll call vote, please?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Beatty.
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchio,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right, the motion's been accepted. The application's been accepted.
Appreciate it.
Anthony, so what's different this time around? How are we, are you in compliance with the existing conditional use permit?
I am.
Okay.
The state gives us,
Just a,
the state gives us a little extra time. I guess state rules say we can stay open until 2, and they leave it up to the cities. And I guess this city is 1 o'clock in the morning.
oh, I thought it was 1 o'clock. See, that's what happens when you quit drinking, you lose track of the laws. So you can actually serve until how late?
Till 1:30, I believe.
So your last call at 1:30 and then all the
1:30,
drinks off the
1:40.
table by 2.
Yeah.
How big is the crowd at the end of the night compared to the beginning of the night?
It's big enough to keep it going, for sure. I don't want to lose that extra business at the end of the night. It's a good sized crowd.
All
And,
right.
and it's not every night I want to do this. I'd like to do it bike week, maybe some of the festivals, if the weekend's busy on a Friday or Saturday night, stay open till 2 instead of close at 1.
Sure,
that
yeah.
kind of thing.
So you've heard all the objections of your neighbors.
That was outdoor music.
Well, I think one of them was the noise of people leaving your establishment at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning and having conversations in the parking lots and stuff like that. Is there anything that you've done to improve that situation?
I mean, I can't control people after they leave the building, really.
Well,
That's a tough situation right there. Usually there's a couple of police officers outside every Friday and Saturday night.
Do you lease or own the parking lot above your
That's
establishment?
the Mount Washington and the church.
Yeah, so your folks don't park there?
I'm sure some of them do if they're open, yeah.
Yeah,
I would say they do.
okay. Any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Sandgate before we open the public hearing? Sure.
Mr. Sandgate, what is the state law, do you know, as far as service?
I believe it's 2:00.
I thought I read,
the
so maybe
bar
it was in
open
the
till-
paper that you
Yeah, I
could
don't believe
serve until 1, but all drinks had to be consumed by 1:30. Is that not the case?
I don't believe the newspaper. I go by the state law.
It's in the state law.
Yeah,
states
liquor commission,
you
2:00.
can serve right up until 2:00. or-
1:30 is I have to close, basically close by 2:00, which means
All the drinks have
last
to be
call,
gathered up.
last call is
1:30.
1:30, 20 minutes of, and then all the drinks have to be off the table by 2:30.
Okay. Thank you.
By 2 or 2:30?
Yeah,
2.
two. Well, right now, it's 1:30. I have to have we stop serving at 20 minutes of.
Yep.
And no, all the drinks have to be off the tables by, and everybody has to be out by 1:30.
Does the state ever extend that for special occasions, or is that?
They have done it. We've stayed open till 2 before. You guys have
Okay.
actually allowed us once or twice since the time I've been up here.
Yeah, but with like a special event permit or something like
No, I
that?
didn't have to fill out any permit. You guys just said it was cool.
All right, so just to be clear, this is the Tower Hill Tavern. You have the upstairs bar open,
And the big house
the big house,
inside, yeah.
okay. And you've done the soundproofing and the back doors and the
Buffer zones,
windows and the air conditioning.
Sure did.
Okay. And there anything else you want to ask?
Did you happen to ask around the neighbors at all to get a feel for how they would feel?
Oh, no. Haven't,
No one.
Okay,
nobody. I haven't really asked.
all right.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Mr.
Thank-
St. Clair.
Anthony, I know this will be hard to believe, but I'm very confused. Are you talking about staying open to serve alcohol or just be open to serve food?
Serve alcohol and food till 1:30, quarter.
So you're telling me the city of Laconia tells you you cannot serve food after 1:30 at night?
Oh, I can.
Hey, that's right. You can serve food 24 hours there
I
if you want.
can.
Right. So I just want to be clear about that because I'm sitting here, unless they've.
Well, it's an
I'm not-
open bar room. I have to have everybody out of there by 1:30. It's an open bar room. So everybody has to be out of the building by 1:30. I
You're
can serve
talking-
food outside, out of
No.
the window, which I do till 2 or 3
No.
in the morning.
No, you're talking about the big house or towers?
Both. Tower and the big house.
But there's no city ordinance that says you can't serve food after, at any
Right.
time.
No, I can serve food all night long.
Okay, so what you're asking for is strictly with service for drinks, correct?
Yeah, drinks and food. I'm gonna sell food while we're open. Yeah.
Okay, we keep bringing up the food, but we're not approving you to be open for food. You're asking for an extension on, is it music in?
No, well, the music stops at 1:00. But I want to keep the bar open until 2.
Okay, because the state,
I can get an extra hour of selling alcohol.
because
which
the
is
state,
quite a lot of money when you have, 1,000 people there.
because the state gives the city the right to make those times, correct?
Yeah, the state has parameters, but we can go up to those parameters. We're an hour behind them right now.
Right, with the state, okay, with the city's approval. All right, I just wanted, because I was
Understood.
confused on that, and so that, now I know exactly what I'm being asked to vote on. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other members of the board have any questions?
Well, on the application here, well, on our roster, I should say, 9-3, it says to allow the business to have inside music until 2 a.m. and then add a deck off the second floor.
That's an old.
Okay, so that's not,
Yeah, the deck is not gonna go in because there's too much electrical in the sidewalk. And I'm just gonna refinish the overhang that's going over the sidewalk right now.
okay.
And I have a building permit for that already.
That was an artifact from a previous.
Yes.
Yeah, so the application says proposal to amend original approval to allow for indoor live music and DJ until close at 2 AM.
That would be good too. I like that. That sounds better.
Yeah.
Well, it's your application.
I like it.
Okay.
I think we did so much. I gotta go back a little bit. This is just about serving alcohol that last hour. What are we talking about music between 1 and 2?
That's,
I know
that's
not what you want,
optional.
but
If you let me do it, I'll do it. If you don't let me do it, I won't do it.
We've each of us, and depending on what board we've been in, have got a dozen hours into the music less than a year ago. So I would be concerned about adding time to the noise.
Yeah, I think I would agree with the chief on that. And if you're, hearing you saying that your primary concern is economic, I don't think it's gonna
Yeah, the
make
music's not
much
gonna-
difference for the crowd between 1 and 2, whether
Absolutely
the
right.
band's still playing or not.
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Trefethan.
So the application originally had the deck that has been removed. So the application is for approval to allow indoor live music and or DJ until 2 AM. That's the request. That's what was advertised for our public hearing, et cetera. Currently the time is 1 AM for music. We do not, we do not, music and entertainment for this property. We do not control, as has been said, food or soda or whatever.
So he doesn't
And
need
any-
to change to his CUP in
Yes.
order to do what he's asking?
Let me get there, please. So the current limitation is 1 AM for music entertainment. He has requested to go to 2 for indoor live music and or DJ. The rule for alcohol is 1 o'clock is absolute last call. Most places do 12:45, so they have time to prepare them and get them delivered to the table, and 1:30 for consumption. Unless the municipality votes otherwise to extend the hours. We have not. And this application, as presented to the planning department and the board and advertised as a public hearing, has no mention of serving alcohol to a later hour. And as you know, that would be an ordinance change, and that would be required of the city council.
Okay.
So under the current limitations of his approval from last year, he can have music and entertainment till 1 o'clock. And under the rules of Alcohol Bureau, they last call is at 1 and drinks could be on the table and consumed up to 1:30. And we have no authority at this point in time to change anything concerning alcohol.
So what's the full extent of our authority tonight?
You can extend the hours for entertainment to 2 o'clock if you chose to do that. But I personally, as you know, in my staff review, which I'll get to later on, I'm with the same mind as the chief is.
And that's also what Charlie brought up, the fact that he could serve food 24 hours.
He can serve food, soda, coffee, whatever, 24/7, yes.
Well, okay.
Music is till 1 o'clock, is that correct?
At this time.
At this time.
And, okay.
And the application was to extend the hours for music to 2 AM, which is what got advertised.
If my memory serves me right, we gave them a temporary permit last spring to operate into the summer. Things went okay, and then it became standard. Have we had complaints from the people up on Foster and up the hill?
There are no recorded noise complaints since the August hearing.
Since he made the structural changes to his building, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we don't have any authority. Well, strike that. You said that last call is
Technically,
somewhere
1
between 1 and
o'clock.
1:15 and
No,
then
it's 1.
1, and then all drinks by 1:30, unless extended by the municipality. But that's not what's before us tonight, because that's what wasn't what was noticed, right?
Correct.
The only thing that was noticed, Anthony, was the extending the entertainment till 2,
That's right.
basically.
So I need to go to the city council,
Yeah,
you're
that wouldn't
saying?
be this board anyhow.
So I gotta fill out a new application.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
guess we're done here now.
no,
Oh, wait.
it's 2-part.
Okay,
I mean,
We may have
You-
something for you here.
you
Excellent.
It may not be the whole meal, but
you currently have a limitation on how
Appetizer.
late you can go with music and entertainment.
right.
And if you want to amend that, this board can do that. But if you want to change the rules concerning alcohol, then yes, we cannot do that here.
yeah, that's pretty much what I would like.
That's the bottom line. I mean, really,
I don't
the band's not gonna
After
wanna
1
play
o'clock, it
till
doesn't
2
matter.
AM anyway. They'll be,
No, I thought this was basically for alcohol, but I guess not.
all right. Well, are you withdrawing your application then?
Unless you're gonna let me play till 2, I'll keep, that's nice to have in my back pocket, once I get my 2 o'clock approval. If I get it.
I don't think it would make sense unless you got the approval on the alcohol first anyway. You just said
It doesn't
band's
make
not
any
gonna wanna
sense.
stay till 2.
Unless we table this till next month and I get all the other stuff done before that. I don't have to fill out another application.
Well, I don't know if we don't normally table it when there's nothing really for us to do.
Okay,
You have a request before you.
We could, I mean,
We could table it, and save him the application fee.
Correct.
Basically, he can amend the application and come
Mr.
back.
Chair,
next-
I'd like to make a motion to table this.
We have
please.
a motion to table from our voice on the screen.
second,
There's a second from the chief.
right. Thanks anyway, Charlie.
Any discussion on the motion? Actually, it's not debatable. May we have a roll call, please?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes,
Kirk Biotti.
yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchio.
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Brett Bellavue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes.
Back to the drawing board. I'll see
Anthony,
you soon.
keep plugging.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's see. What do we have next? Lucerne Ave. Oh, where's property? Change. PL 2022-0025 SU. Blah.
Boundary line adjustment.
Oh, geez. Okay, that. I forgot to-
Hopefully it's an easy one.
I forgot my acronym decoder ring. It's a condo on Lucerne Avenue. Leisure time rentals, boundary line adjustment, okay, and condo conversion. Yeah, is the application ready for acceptance?
Yes.
All right, we need a motion to accept.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by the chief, seconded by Scott. Is there any discussion? Sensing none, roll call.
Charlie Sinclair,
yes,
Kirk Biotti,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchio.
Yes.
Scott McWilliam.
Yes.
Brett Bellavue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. I see the applicant is here and ready to address the board, so with
I
no
am.
ado.
Rusty Berthollet, property owner, Leisure Time Rentals. What my application is to do a boundary line adjustment with my abutter, Greg Bolton. Basically, what it does is it squares off his property up to Lucerne Ave, squares it off at the top. About 12,000 square feet approximately. It's wooded area right now.
Is it on the wooded area behind the plaza?
Yeah, headed down Lucerne Ave to its, probably to its like.
Oh, I
ski
see.
ledge.
Okay, yeah. Yep, I see that. All right, boundary line adjustment. What's the purpose of the boundary line adjustment? Just to square it off?
Square his property off and it actually gives him frontage on Lucerne Ave now. Which he doesn't have at this point.
What would he need that for?
Well, it's just, every property owner likes to get a little bit more property for their space.
Gotcha.
Future usage, if he wants to build a bigger house on the property or other things.
If the Weirs ever gets developed, the property becomes worth something, right?
Oh, it's worth money now. Guess it depends on who you talk to.
I know, Rusty, I know. Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant about this boundary line adjustment? All right. Well, why don't we have a public hearing then? So open the public hearing at 8:14. Are there any abutters?
And condo conversion.
And a condo conversion, yes. Sorry.
Part of
about
this
that.
application.
It is, yes. I
I
forgot to
actually
read it
need
out.
2 separate approvals on this, not the same approval number. Because it's 2 separate. I did it on the same
Yes,
application,
Yes, yes.
but there needs to be.
Oh,
2
there's
different-
025 and 026.
All right.
So we gotta vote them we gotta vote them separately? Yes, okay. So just to be clear, the issue is the boundary line adjustment only at this point.
Paper is so much better.
Are there any abutters? Any members of the public? Anyone online? We'll close the public hearing at 8:14. So I'll put to the board the question, should we approve PL 2022-0025 SU, the boundary line adjustment on Lucerne Avenue?
So moved.
All right, a
Second.
motion, seconded by Mr. Belleville. Any discussion on the motion?
Did staff have anything on that? Okay. all right.
No.
Standard.
Okay, no, just making sure.
Yeah. All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Biati,
Yes. Hi.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
This is the boundary line.
Just the
right?
boundary.
Okay, yes.
Mike Delavecchia, Scott McWilliam.
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right, so 25 has been approved. So explain the condo conversion issue.
Okay, I recently did a subdivision of the property at the plaza in the Weirs, Elton Rose Plaza, to the plaza and then the RV park. At this point, I'm looking to do a condo conversion of the RV sites. I've been asked by a lot of the tenants if they could buy their own site at some
Right.
point. So at this point, that's what I'm trying to do, the conversion. Everything would stay exactly the same as it is. Instead of being one owner, it'd be
Right.
12 owners. And not changing anything or building anything or doing anything.
Just got paid
Just
lawyers
12
to draw all that stuff up.
Yeah, it's 30 pages.
Right.
Oh,
Yep, okay. Yeah, I think that would be the trend, and that would make it a lot easier in the long run for you, at least, not be the landlord. Any questions of the applicant
have a
about that?
question for the
Yes, Scott.
applicant. Being a condo conversion, and I don't know if staff maybe can address this as well. Is there a HOA type of arrangement necessary, given that there's ownership, shared amenities, roadways, et cetera?
well, it'd be an association, condo association that would be handling all of the community property there.
That's the
Common
legal
area.
documents I
Right,
was just
yeah, so-
asking him about, yeah.
So there would be a legal document like.
Yes, yes, description of the sites and then the open area like the roadways and the common area and stuff like that.
Can people add on, patios and?
All that stuff
like
is in the
That would
condo
be-
docs. They got to get a permit from the city and,
Right.
the guidelines. It's just like a regular condominium, pretty much. The city actually has a copy of the proposed It hasn't been finalized until we get the approvals, just in
Sure.
case there was things we had to change and stuff on it.
They usually give us a copy of the condo docs so that we make sure that it takes care of all those things.
It's about
But
30 pages. Thick.
What, yeah.
It's
you're
like a little book.
You're literally creating a legal entity called a condominium so that once everything is sold off, then it's up to the association to act as
Their own governing body.
our own governing body,
It's
basically,
like Southbound Shores.
right?
Okay.
Almost exactly the same, yes. Can we put the wild trail through now? Oh, okay. Where are we now?
Public hearing.
Public hearing, yes. 8:18 PM, the public hearing has been opened. There'll be no yawning by the members of the press. Good. Are there any members of the public that would like to be heard? Or any abutters? Nobody online? Close the public hearing then at 8:19. Staff.
Just the standard recommendations for the condo conversion. I do want to mention, just to put it on the record in the minutes, this is a seasonal campground now, and it will continue to be seasonal. And that is because of the depth of the utilities. They need to shut off the water in the winter.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Any questions for staff? All right, so no questions for staff. So shall we then approve? Which one? I read the right one here. PL 2022-026, the condo conversion.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Approve.
Motion and second. Motion by the chief and second by Scott. Any further discussion? Sensing none, could we have a roll call?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Piatti,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchio,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Brad Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. Please keep on going. All right. All right, well, thank you very much, Rusty.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you again, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Number 9, PL 2022-0014 SP, Watson Road. The High Octane Saloon proposal for 2,000 square foot addition to existing structure. I'm putting hope in the future here. And is that a 5,000 square foot pavilion? And patio improvements. Such a minor thing they bring it. Just a little project.
Might be less complicated than a 792 square foot.
Yeah, actually, you got a little bit more room to work with up there, don't you?
Nick Schedule, engineer, Stephen J. Smith and Associates, DuBois and King, representing the client. Act 5.
Hang on, I'm going to stop you for 1 second. We need acceptance here first, don't we?
We do.
Is it in order?
Yes, it is.
It is in order, Mr. Schedule. All right.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Accept it.
Accept the application as submitted.
Seconded by the chief. Do we have a roll call, please, on the acceptance?
Scott.
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Piatti,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchio,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam.
Yes.
Brad Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right, you've been accepted now. I know you're seeking acceptance.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
So this project involves a site plan approval for what you mentioned, the addition to the existing structure, a outdoor pavilion area, patio seating. In the past with COVID, I think they had been setting up a tent outside, and this is really to memorialize outdoor seating onto the site plan. And then there is an existing kind of patio crushed stone area that they use for cornhole and things like games. And that was, the plan is to convert that into a more smooth surface, but it's still going to be a pervious paver patio. So not an increase in stormwater runoff as a result. So the other component of this is a conditional use permit for, I think it's for alternative parking or additional parking on a adjacent lot, which is also owned by the same property owner.
Right.
This is just an existing conditions plan. You can see the entrance off of Watson Road. Existing parking, it consists of asphalt paved area, and then there's some portions of which are gravel areas that are sometimes used for parking depending on season and demand. There is an existing 50-foot access easement to adjacent lots. And then I did get made aware and was in the staff notes about a 20-foot existing drainage easement, which I'm also showing. I've added that to the plan since you've seen it. And then the proposed conditions. So there's just kind of in general, there's an existing stormwater pond on the property, and that pond was designed and built with the intent to drain this parcel and the two parcels up gradient from it. So that's the, I think, reason for that drainage easement.
Just while you're talking about parking, is there going to be a decrease in parking? We'll call it square footage because you can't really call it parking spots. Decrease in an actual area to park vehicles?
No, there's going to be no, there's going to be an increase.
I'll reword my question. Is there going to be less motorcycles that can park there during 10 days, or is there going to be more?
Because
I want more.
There's
so-
going to be more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want less.
What
I don't want more out on the street.
what was on the site plan for parking, it has been expanded upon, perhaps without site plan approval. And I think we're trying to establish a proper stormwater management and site plan approval for that parking. So we are increasing the number of spaces, I think, that can park there for this project. So
Just to follow up on that,
Yeah,
if I
sure.
could. So our parking ordinance and the numbers for required number of spaces is for cars.
Yeah.
So the parking that is being proposed for the two additions is what is needed for car parking. We recognize that a significant amount of the time that a lot of their clientele is motorcycle. And so therefore they could probably get 2 motorcycles per car space.
I was just thinking if we had places for people to be and then lose,
Yeah.
500 motorcycle spots, it was gonna be a big concern. So
zoning, the folks in the zoning office were very clear that, adding additional outdoor seating or indoor seating, patio or porch seating, anywhere people can be enjoying food or drink, we're counting that square footage to calculate our parking demand. So this just kind of shows the proposed addition towards the front of the building. There'd be a covered walkway and then a pavilion area, basically where they're currently set up with a tent. This area is all going to be fenced in as required for consumption of alcohol and separation from the parking lot. The pavilion will have a stone drip edge, so anything coming off the roof will go into a stone edge 2 feet wide and 4 feet deep. And then I also added a bioretention rain garden area on the downstream side just to improve some of the treatment off of the impervious that's added. other stormwater improvements that we've made is, so this area is the edge of pavement right now, like the paved edge comes down, and then goes out like this. So these spots like here are on gravel. So we're adding a infiltration trench and stone area to collect any of the runoff that's coming off of the gravel area. That goes into an under drain, and then that under drain will discharge into an existing swale that, you know, kind of keeps runoff going in the same direction.
Right.
This is the boundary line between the two lots right here. And this plan shows that same boundary line. So the restaurant is adjacent over here. This is Watson Road. So they've already done some of this clearing and graveling. More or less, we've kept the parking within that footprint, and we've added a fairly significant bioretention stormwater management practice in order to address the change in land use from what was wooded to now it's going to be gravel. So
Fire hydrants?
Fire hydrants?
Is there town water, city water?
There's city water on Daniel Webster Highway. Right now, the building right now is served by a private well. So part of the proposal is for the addition and adding fire sprinklers to the building. So that would require them to connect into the city's water system, but that's on Daniel Webster Highway. So that connection would be across DW Highway with a large diameter pipe that then outside the building, in accordance with the water department's rules, we would separate out and have a domestic water and a fire sprinkler service that would go into the building and, you know, be designed by a mechanical engineer as part of the building permit.
Okay. So there's no city water on Watson Road. It's just on the.
No, it runs
No,
down and
DW.
now, yep, yep. Which is,
There is sewer. There's existing sewer for the building. One of the comments from Public Works was that we would update the sewer discharge permit, basically working with the Winnipesaukee River Basin Program to identify and recognize that there's a change in sewer flow. We document that with an application, and
That goes down Watson Road then.
yeah, I think it goes Watson Road towards the pump station, maybe.
There's a pump station on the
Yeah.
corner of Watson Road and Scenic Drive.
Yeah.
Scenic Road.
Lady Maiden or something.
Maiden Lady Cove.
I have a couple questions.
Sure, Scott.
Your application states, includes patio improvements. I'm looking at a proposed patio. Is that what we're talking about there?
Yeah.
I don't see an existing patio in the existing conditions, so.
This
I'm wondering
is.
what the improvements relate, is that what it relates to?
Yeah, it's related to this area. There's you can see this tree, and right now the area around that tree is like a gravel kind of worn out.
Kind of like a
grass,
patio?
I guess, yeah. I think it's an area that's used for cornhole. So they want to be able to have that be a smooth surface instead of like a unkept gravel surface. They're going to have it be a smooth patio surface that's basically will have that same infiltration capacity that the existing surface has. So if
Whatever
not
happened to
better,
good old
actually.
horseshoes anyway? Jeez.
Okay, so that's the
Dangerous.
area we're talking about there. I have one other question about the additional parking. I'm trying to figure out where that parking, how it's accessed. I can't see it on my,
So the access is actually, we've got, there's an access point here and there's an access point here off of Watson Road. So they could potentially come in here, and then this area is going to be gravel and open and a drive aisle. So they could come in this entrance and go out to the additional parking. Or they could come in off of
this way.
Watson Road, which is
Right.
No, let's do
the
the
access
existing
for this easement.
Yeah, but you asked about the additional parking, and I think he said the access is off. This is Watson Road here.
Yeah, this is the proposed additional parking.
Oh, that is it.
So the additional parking would be the access from the existing parking lot as well. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I see it on the drawing. Get from one to the other from Watson Road.
So you can go right from one to the other without going out to Watson Road.
Is that on the drawing or are you just?
Not
drawing.
Yeah.
It's not on our
actually
drawing, it's
here,
right,
but
right.
It would be, the access would be across this gravel portion. And this is all gravel, so this is showing as gravel. This is got an entrance, kind of like an island. Here. So access can be either from Watson Road into that parking lot or from the existing park. Say if you went in here and you couldn't find a spot, you go this way. You know, potentially park in any of these spots. If you can't find a spot there, you'd have to back out. You don't have to go out onto Watson Road once you're in the parking lot.
That's good.
Okay, yeah, we
I
don't
think that's-
apparently have that.
Which is how they do it now.
Yeah, I can clean that up with more clear defined edge of gravel, edge of pavement areas. I think that edge of gravel line comes out like a dash line that's really light.
That's not
Yeah.
really changing from how they operate now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pedestrian access would be the same as the vehicles would be using, right? They wouldn't be forced out onto Watson Road or.
Correct.
All right, any other questions for the applicant?
I don't know if this is for the applicant or water department conditions 5E. Existing well, is it will or cannot be connected to the water system?
Cannot.
Cannot.
It needs to, the existing well needs to be abandoned and they don't want any cross connection between the well and the city's water system so that in no way can the well potentially backflow into the city's system and contaminate it. So there's a clear process that the water department requires when you're abandoning the well, and they are going to make sure that it happens that way with their inspection process.
Okay, so they're not going to use it
like,
at all.
yeah,
Like spiking the can.
they may keep the well, and not use it for domestic if they wanted to use it for landscaping,
Oh,
for
okay.
example, and not have to pay for landscape water. So if they were to keep the well, the water department is going to make sure that there are no ability for that plumbing to be cross-connected. They can't just have a valve that's closed and for some reason, you know, you turn off the city water and you turn a valve and now you're on the well. They're not going to let you do that.
Okay,
And we're not going to do that.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, sensing none, it's 8:36 PM. We're gonna open the public hearing. Are there any abutters or members of the public that are here who would like to be heard? Anyone out in Zoom land? All right, last call. Okay. Oh, we have a hand up. Whoever is seeking your input, this is your
Speedy finger.
moment. You can hear me? Could you identify yourself for the record, please? Hello? They call it Zoom. It's probably not that
Can you hear me?
Zoomy tonight. Yep, yes. Who do
Okay.
we have on the line?
Hi, my name is Barry Lukács. I am the abutter to the property. And I just wanted to review two things, please. I think I had sent an email to the planning department that I had asked to have read in the minutes, although most of that was discussed over the plan right now. But if you do have a copy of that, I would like it read into the minutes.
We don't usually read them into the minutes, but we can make them part of the minutes by
Okay.
referencing them.
All right.
So we
Great.
do have a copy of it. What is the date of it?
March 29th.
Okay, your email of March 29th is part of the record on this application.
That's great. And then I want to speak as an abutter, being in favor of the project.
Well, thank you. Any other comments? No? You don't have to. All right, Mr. Lukacs, well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other members of the public, interested souls? Any abutters? It doesn't seem like there are anyone else. There is anyone else. So we'll close the public hearing at 8:38 and we will hear from the planning director.
Just a little bit of background and history here. This property traditionally has had a tent in more or less the same location as the proposed pavilion, more or less the same size for Motorcycle Week for many years. For the past 2 years, because of COVID considerations, they have been allowed to keep the tent up basically for the entire season, warmer season anyway. So this proposal is just kind of making this situation a permanent situation. I will also mention that across the street at the former saloon, which has now been converted to apartments, when that gentleman was in for the apartment conversion, we specifically asked him if he was aware of what was across the street
I remember
and what
that.
kind of noise it makes. And he is aware of that, and it is what it is. Okay. We have a list of recommendations. I do want to highlight a few here that are important. Parking has been delineated on the plan, and we will insist on a delineation on site. A lot of the additional parking will be gravel, so we will insist on some way of delineating the individual parking spaces, because obviously lines don't work.
I talked with the owner and we talked about the concrete wheel stops.
Okay.
And I think they were fine with doing that.
Okay.
I think the idea was they probably aren't going to be plowing this thing in the winter time.
Right. So that's fine. And there are other options. We just want to know.
Send a guy out with an orange spray paint can every 2 weeks or so.
Like every 2 days, but yeah, no. So anyway, so that's very important because there's a lot of additional square footage being added here, and to the chief's point earlier about particularly during Motorcycle Week, but
Yeah.
not just Motorcycle Week, they have a very good clientele on weekends. 5A of the water department conditions, the water service that is in Endicott Street was put in by a private developer, and the arrangement on that was that they will get a payback from anybody that taps into it. So that will need to be negotiated with the developer. And under F of 5, they need to go across the street, and it's my understanding that they will do that with vertical drilling. There will not be a trench dug across Endicott Street. It'll be done with vertical drilling or horizontal drilling.
Horizontal,
Sorry,
yep.
sorry. Wrong. They're not
Directional-
going down, they're going
directional
across. Sorry, horizontal drilling.
It would have to be. I mean, it can only be vertical to a certain height and then
Or down.
but you're gonna have to go horizontal eventually.
Other than that, we have our standard requirements for approval.
All right. Any questions for staff about this application? All right. Well, we have a proposal here, very detailed. It seems to me that it's a substantial improvement to the property. And I don't see any public safety or deleterious effects to the environment as a result. It is what it is. It's just going to become a little bit more permanent. And I'm always in favor of that. So what shall we do with PL 2022-0014 SP?
I make a motion that we approve PL 2022-0014 SP with the recommended staff recommendations for 1072 Watson Road.
I'll second. Oh, it's a
Sorry,
race.
go ahead, Charlie.
Oh, that's okay. That's
No,
okay.
it's okay, Charlie, you can second it.
It's all
We still love you, Charlie.
Yeah.
Okay, motion made and seconded. May we have a roll call, please?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Beatty.
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchio,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Brett Bellavue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right, it's approved. Your job is to schedule.
That includes the conditional use too. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Charlie, I'm sorry, you're the only one out there in the ether tonight, but Stacy insisted that I come back.
No,
I like
I'm
doing
glad-
these meetings from my comfy chair, but you know, the mayor's chair is kind of comfortable. I think I could fit in the
That-
mayor's
that-
chair.
This is good for you.
Practice? Okay.
Peter, I'm 2 hours behind you, Peter, so I still have the whole evening ahead of me.
You've been 2 hours behind me my whole life, Charlie.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
So, all right then. We have an application acceptance to do now. PL 2021-0146 SP. It's the Villages at Province Street. And this is for acceptance of the application only. With the public hearing scheduled for the 3rd of May. Is the application in? He wrote something in. Is the application in order and ready for acceptance?
Yes, it is.
All right. I see someone's written in waiver request for sidewalk. We're not doing that tonight, right?
Not
No,
tonight.
I just have to remember to.
That's okay, that's the note to you. All
There's
right.
also a CUP for a wetland too. Buffer.
We're only doing application acceptance.
No, I know. I
tonight.
just wanted to give you,
Oh, yeah.
throw it all out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, so, would someone care to
I'd like
make a
to-
motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board accept application PL 2021-0148 SP Province Street, the Villages at Province Street.
All right, I believe that was 0146, but
Did I say something else?
you said 8. It's all right.
Okay.
You know, somebody's
46.
gonna call us on these minutes when it's.
0146.
We have a motion. Did we get a second?
Second.
We have several seconds. Pick your second. I think I heard that direction, so.
Is there any discussion, Peter?
Is there any discussion on the acceptance?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Phil, when I'm on the zoning board and when we approved this, I promised people that abutters that were against it, that I would put a curve in the driveway. So when you look up Province Street, it curves like that and you have some evergreen trees so you don't look up the long driveway to the apartment buildings. Can we add that in?
That's actually going to be presented to you in May. That there was
Very
a
good.
change to that, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
Thank you.
That's part of the reason probably we're coming back in May, because you gotta make plan revisions, right?
And there's some drainage study things we're working on, alteration of terrain, and also some fine tuning of the traffic situation.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Brouillard. Any other discussion on the motion to accept this application? Sensing none, may we have a roll call, please, Ms. Graham?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Beatty.
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchio.
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Brett Bellavue,
Yes.
Peter Burnett.
Yes. All right, it's
Thank
been
you.
accepted. So we have the usual categories. And do we indeed have a conceptual to do tonight at the end? Shall we get the conceptual done and then do our regular business after that?
Sure.
Anyone mind moving things around? Okay, why don't you guys come on up and this is 141 Water Street.
losing the Water Street Cafe.
Nick, you're back so soon.
Yeah. All right, good to go.
All right, I'm gonna ask it, are we losing the Water Street Cafe?
This is all, just a plan, so.
Okay,
Maybe,
you can go.
maybe. Let me just address it because people will ask. So as you all know, in 2020, when the pandemic hit, we were shut down. We had to think about what was our next move? How do we pivot from this? So we started thinking about what else can we do? So we started, a plan that after speaking to an attorney, if we can't open the restaurant again, what do we do? So this is just an evolving idea we have, but nothing is in stone. And we do have alternate ideas for the restaurant if this comes to fruition. So I'm gonna let the professionals handle their job.
Thanks, Ted. So this is, as you know, 141 Water Street. The existing use is a food and drink establishment. This conceptual plan includes utilizing performance zoning. So that's why we wanted to bring it to you to discuss the proposed plan. The proposed use is for 14 apartment units, approximately 924 square feet each. So it's a 2-story building with 7 units on each floor. So imagine the Water Street Cafe now is here, and the proposed building would be along the boundary adjacent to the Stratum Tire property line. So we've got, keeping the building within the setbacks. The real conditional use performance zoning is for density. I believe the density in this zone is 1 per acre. So I think we were going to be allowed 10 and we're going for 14. I believe is what the basic ask is with performance zoning. We also have 26 parking spaces. The parking requirement is 1.5 per unit. We tried to go above and beyond that, just knowing that most 2-bedroom apartments, there's a good chance you're going to have 2 vehicles. And so I think that at least gets us 2 parking spaces for 12 of the 14, and then 1 for each of the other one. But we do meet the parking requirement. We go above and beyond the parking requirement for the use. That also allows potentially for some visitor spaces. We're putting trash removal at the north part of the lot. This is the abutting with the police station, so that that would be just a dumpster enclosure in a typical screened-in enclosure. We did provide kind of a pedestrian access to that so that they can get in there. We made it wider than a typical dumpster so that we could have room for some recycling in there. Probably not 2 full dumpsters, but something like a full dumpster and a couple of the larger new style bins for recycling. A small increase in the lot coverage under this proposal, but we do add some stormwater management BMPs with some kind of bioretention rain garden areas, which enhance the landscaping for the building itself. We're showing some additional street trees and trying to save a couple of trees that are here already. we'd have a sidewalk that would connect into the existing sidewalk on Water Street. And we would have a sidewalk that connects to there's an existing sidewalk on the the city's property there. So we connect into that, and that kind of ties into the pedestrian network around the site. Other stormwater features would be the kind of the stone drip edge along the roof line, so that we can infiltrate runoff from the rooftop. And utilizing, there's existing catch basins in the parking lot now. We're not 100% sure what the condition is of them. So as we go through the design, we'd be investigating that existing drainage and whether we can utilize it. This plan shows us utilizing it. I do have other variations that would run a new drainage system here if that is in fact of a quality that's not worth saving. So, I don't know, I can answer questions. I don't know if that kind of covers what we have for the concept so far. I mean,
Are these the colors that you were intending?
I would still, I'm not the architect here, and I don't, excuse me, sorry. I don't know if the colors have really been determined at this stage. I think this is one version of it. Kind of, I guess I would say earth tones,
Gotcha. Okay. I was just curious.
But yeah, I think this is generally the architectural style that it would be, a combination of it's like a cedar shingle type or shake shingle, and then a vinyl siding. And vinyl cedar shingle.
Any questions for your schedule?
I don't see the 14 doors. I only see 6.
Yeah, so it's kind of confusing. You come in, there's actually a door, like, so this is the walk into this area, and there's a door that's on the plane that's into the page. And I think you can see it on the side page. So there's a door right here. See this door? It goes, so you come in and you can see these
off the stairway.
You can see these 5 doors, but you'd see 10 if you see both. And then this is 7, 6 and 7. They're kind of hidden.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives the building a little depth architecturally. It's not just one big rectangle. It breaks it up.
So what input can we give you that will be helpful in your finalizing the plans?
Well, I think what we're looking for is generally an acknowledgement that we're going to need to go through the performance zoning process, and we're looking for more density than what would be allowed within the zoning as it's written for that area. It is in the corridor, which makes it eligible for that performance
Is
zoning.
it in UC?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else we can?
I think generally that's the main thing in terms of where we would be kind of straying from the typical site plan process. Potentially some of the parking could end up in the setback, technically portions of parking spaces. So again, that's a performance zoning item that we would be looking to take advantage of and be able to provide as many parking spots as we think are really necessary for the use.
Dean, including these 14, roughly, how many new residential units are we looking at over the next year or two?
That's hard to say because, as you know, over the years, things get approved and don't get built.
I understand.
But ones that
Nine depending on Province Road, Province Street.
not approved yet, but
Not approved,
I
but
understand.
pending, I mean.
We are looking at 48 units in the Weirs at the top of the hill. They are breaking ground very soon. So that's a definite.
Brady Sullivan.
Brady Sullivan, as you've probably heard for many years, is going to start imminently.
I won't believe it till I see the shovel in the ground.
We have had many discussions with them, so there's a potential there. Lilac Valley continues to be developed, which is off of second phase is off of 106 Old Prescott Hill Road. That is 40 units, I believe, something along that line.
The gardens.
What?
The gardens.
The gardens, interesting piece of information on the gardens. They had indicated in the fall that they were going to start in the fall, then they had indicated over a couple of conversations over the winter that they were going to start in the spring. And we noticed on the real estate listing today that that the property is for sale. So I don't know exactly what that means.
You know, up on White Oaks Road, there is still a great big rectangular board.
Yeah,
You
that-
know the spot I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
the excavator used to be there.
We approved that when I was on the planning board in 2005.
Hence my case of saying, as you know.
Yes, as you know.
There are many things that get approved that don't get built.
No, I know. It's, the
We are,
market's changed
we
too.
are
I mean, it's not-
potentially looking, if Langley Cove actually does start, Province Hill, Province Road does get approved and built. In addition to things like Barton's and the Outlook up in the Weirs, et cetera, we are looking at a significant number of units of housing.
In my neighborhood as well.
Potential in your neighborhood as well. Yes, that building's under construction, obviously. However, at least half of that housing, if not more than half of that housing, is not the kind of housing that we really desperately need in the city.
Yeah.
It is higher end housing and there's a market for it. I don't want to mislead anybody, but they are higher end and a high percentage of them will be, second homes or whatever. This particular proposal is exactly the kind of housing that we need in the city. These are smaller units. We are hoping that that translates into smaller price tags. We don't have a commitment from anybody to do that, but they are also located in a very good location from the standpoint of you don't need a car to get to work if you happen to work downtown or, that kind of a thing. It's a very walkable location to a good portion of the city. So from the standpoint of, and I cannot emphasize to the board enough the importance of the conceptual hearing at this stage of they are asking for 14 units where they would normally be allowed 10. And there's a potential as they finalize their plans that they may need some relief from parking, pavement setback or in those kinds of things. But so, not to view this lightly, please do not. But this is your chance to say, I think that's too many units, or thank you very much, that's the right number of units or whatever it is that you want to say. But we desperately need this kind of housing in the city. And I don't believe anything that's on the books, other than perhaps the Province Street apartment proposal, really addresses the housing shortage that we have in the actual need in the housing for housing in the city.
I think it's fortunate that we just had a census here, because I'm not an expert in the real estate market or anything, but I know Laconia. And just doing a, kind of a back of the pad sketch leads me to conclude that we've probably experienced a migration out of Laconia, because so many units of affordable or subsidized housing have been discontinued and are slated to be replaced with either high-end condos or less affordable housing. And the shortage of rental housing is critical. And I think that's why, I can only give you anecdotal evidence, but like in my neighborhood, a lot of people ended up going to Franklin, to Tilton, to Moultonborough, to other towns. Moultonborough of all places, somebody found a rental. It's good to see something that's affordable here. I don't know. For many years, I think Laconia felt that we were a magnet for lower income people, because all the services were here. People that didn't have transportation could be in the urban core and they could walk to services and things of that sort. But, I'd be interested to see what the census data indicates, because over the last 100 years, I think our population has remained exactly the same, or roughly within 1,000 souls, about 13K, right? Isn't that
16, but there's a there's disproportion between the amount of living units we have in the city and the population. There's just no way that they're correct. You don't have 10,000 living units and 16,000 people.
That's true.
It's pretty obvious. But we also see in the census, you'll have a 10-unit apartment building with 8 people living there. We know that's not true. There's 30 people living there.
There's a
So
social aspect.
It's difficult.
There's a social aspect too, but there's also the infrastructure. As you point out, whether they live here year round or not, you have to provide fire protection for everybody. The Public Works has got to maintain the streets and plow and there's still a housing shortage. I hear stories all the time from people that are in the real estate business. We had a listing this morning. We had a bidding war at noon and it sold at 6 o'clock. And I've heard that from more than one, mouth. And there's still a shortage of listings.
Yeah.
So
we have, for all intents and purposes, we have a 0% vacancy rate in apartments. The only real vacancies that we have in apartments is when a tenant moves out and the landlord, we hope, although not always the case, takes a week or so to paint the walls and maybe replace the carpet or whatever, and then they have a new tenant in there. That is essentially our vacancy rate at this point in time. You try to find an apartment in the city of any price range, and you are weeks, if not months, searching for an apartment. So from a standpoint of apartments, I don't think that we have an issue. Unfortunately, we have very little in the pipeline for mid-priced, mid-sized actual houses.
Right.
We have a chance very long-term with a couple of things that may be happening in the future that could change somewhat, but that is also a very big need and is also probably the hardest thing to achieve, because if you have a lot and you're a builder, you have a choice to, I can build a 1,000 square foot ranch and get 250 for it, or maybe more, or I can build a 2,000 square foot colonial and I can get 450,000 for it. And that's the choice to be made. And guess which choice they make 99.9% of the time, which I don't blame them, but that's the reality of this, of the situation.
Well, and we have the community action program selling 2 buildings filled with subsidized housing for $1 million and not even notifying the tenants, you know? All right. Yes, Brett,
I have two questions back to this conceptual thing here.
if we may.
The
Sure.
first one is, I know this is just still conceptual stuff. But we're talking about leaving these as rental apartments, right? Not condoizing it and selling them.
They will be built as apartments.
As apartments, okay. And that might come down the road. My second question is, in the summer, where are all the boat trailers gonna park?
Well, you go-
Because if you go down there, if you go down there on a Saturday, Sunday morning, well, that's only when I get down there, but I'm pretty sure during the summer, any given morning, that whole way down to the boat launch and all around there is parked with boat trailers and pickup trucks.
In the afternoon after we closed, maybe, not, not when we're open in the morning.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know what you mean. I do know what you mean.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I would say fortunately, we have enough space to accommodate all the parking needs on our site for those units, so there won't be people who don't live there parking their boat trailers there.
It'll be a tough one to plow.
Yeah, for the first couple of months, maybe, and then they'll learn, but okay.
Will they get a lake view?
Only when they get up to the 4th story.
Yeah, I mean, you may be able to see a little bit.
Get out on the roof.
Down. I don't know. I guess you'd be kind of trying to look that way. to
Second floor
Windsong,
might see the
right?
boat
I'm not sure what
launch.
the
to Windsong.
finished elevation will be, but
Yeah.
guessing it's.
Either
gonna be
river, yeah.
16, 18
They'll be looking at the
That
water
increases
treatment.
the price. We don't want that.
Oh, no, I thought it would be nice. I mean, it'd be like a bonus.
It's eagle front, isn't it? Isn't there an eagle nest out there in the river that we're not supposed to talk about?
It's not on this property.
Right.
Good answer.
So on the
No spotted
QT,
turtles.
I mean, the answer I think would be, we haven't intended to build this with a lake view. I don't, if there was one, I think it would just be a bonus.
It's not high.
this is for the
You
record.
got the sewer treatment plant, the old one that's down.
It's always wanted to hold that up to
Trees at
confuse
the
the
end of the
public.
road and all kinds of stuff.
Well, an excellent job as always, Mr. Schedule. Do we have any more questions for these folks? Thank you for coming and waiting so
Hearing that it's
long.
too much.
No,
No.
I think it's
No,
definitely
we
got
need,
potential.
I mean, we guys are doing something.
Thank you.
We have
Thank
Mr.
you.
Morris.
Thanks, Ted.
place
And
on
the cafe will
Street.
be right under, right?
They're gonna buy Stratum tire. They're gonna buy Stratum
That's a-
tire and turn that into the new
Huh?
Water Street Cafe.
Yeah, that's.
You being
that's on the
serious?
market.
Stratum tire.
Oh, we need a vote.
Why not?
It's on the market.
Or build more apartments.
So the vote is,
Besides lot, too.
did we like this? Did the board approve the conceptual plan?
Correct.
All right. Did we have a motion to that effect?
It's apparently not too tall.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and encourage them to move forward and accept the conceptual plan.
Wow, I'd
Second.
second that motion.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I never get to do that. All right, any discussion? Any further discussion? If not, could we have a call of the roll, please?
Charlie Sinclair,
Yes.
Kirk Biatti.
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
Mike Delvecchio,
Yes.
Scott McWilliam,
Yes.
Brett Bellevue,
Yes.
Peter Burdette.
Yes. All right, well, the motion carries and we're looking forward to seeing detailed plans and application. All right, is there any old business?
I've got an old business one.
I have new business if you would like to do.
Oh, I
that.
did them out of order, didn't I? Could you?
Sure, I can hold
Yes.
on.
Mr. New Business, sir.
So there really isn't any other place to put this, so this is why I put it on new business. But anyway, as you've probably noticed, and there have been at least one article in the paper, most of the trees in the downtown area have been removed. These are street trees. They were planted as street trees, and they were getting to the size that they were no longer desirable as street trees from the various collective input. They also sometimes will damage sidewalks with roots. Most of them are going to be replaced. They will be replaced with a different type of tree, one that is more, one that won't grow quite as large, and one that will be more tolerant of the things that occur in the downtown area, such as salt and other pollutants. The other part of the plan is that where the cutouts in the sidewalk are already present for the old trees, they will be elongated they will be made bigger, but elongated along the curb line to provide more area for water to get to the roots. And in many cases, depending upon location, but in many cases, there will be some type of a permeable mat that will be placed down on these openings, as opposed to just having mulch, which sometimes gets muddy and sometimes gets tracked around, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a way of letting water get through, but at the same time, keeping people high and dry off of the sidewalk. So I did want to mention that. I know that it is with great consternation on many folks' parts to see the trees be taken down. And I want it to be clear that I had absolutely nothing to do with that decision. I'm just the messenger. Please don't shoot me. But anyway.
Dean, has there been any discussion of doing like maybe containers, like a wall to get the soil and the plant up above the salt and everything else?
There
that
was
affects it?
not, and mostly because of the sidewalk plows and the issues of them getting around them and snow removal and those kinds of things. They're trying to keep, this mat will be at the same level as the concrete or the pavement, whatever the case may be in a particular location. But
Well, that raises the question, what is the purpose of a street tree anyway? Certainly not shade.
Dogs need them.
They have hydrants. That's infrastructure.
as I said, I didn't do this. I'm just the messenger.
Well, that's, you're getting it. So,
Some kind of greenery.
yeah, there
They can
there
do
are shrubs and
containers of
dwarf
bamboo
tree
that they can
varieties
lift
that
and
do
place
well
somewhere else for the winter.
and not cause any problems.
Sidewalk.
And if they're maintained properly, you can actually control the root spread so that they don't cause damage, like the Riverwalk was torn apart by tree roots.
Yep, and that'll be repaired this year. My understanding is.
We approved it 2 years ago.
Amy just went over the maintenance plan for the Riverwalk Trail this last month at the downtown TIF meeting.
Oh, okay.
So it will be fixed this year.
Oh, good. Excellent. Any other new business anyone has?
I got old business.
You have old business.
Oh, I thought you had new.
Go ahead. This will only take a few minutes. Please bear with me.
While he's passing that out, I'll throw mine out. I went by Isaiah 61 the other day and was dismayed to not see a fence up yet.
That is correct. Up until about 2 weeks ago, the ground was frozen and they couldn't get a fence installed. But we have talked to them about that, and it will be going up shortly. Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
And they're gonna need it soon too, because the weather's getting better and they're already hanging out.
Yeah, I
outside.
noticed somebody broke the window on the one door, which has been repaired. But I was wondering if it was the result of
Yeah.
some issue.
So the overnight shelter is finished for the
Season.
winter. And so they're back to daytime only at the cafe.
Shouldn't we refer this to the mayor's homelessness task force?
Yes.
We met, like, I think 18 months ago last
Yeah.
time, wasn't
Twice.
I need to speak.
it? Speak.
Unfortunately, this is true. And I just want to encourage everybody in the future, when we vote on something like this, you don't have to be politically correct. You have to do what's best for all of Laconia, not just a group that's in the newspaper all the time. There's different opinions. I'm happy to listen to them. But my neighbor will not go to the library. Would you bring your little children there or grandkids? It's a mess. By having Isaiah, we encouraged more of this, I hate to say abuse, but you won't see these people in Wilkesboro Library. You won't see them in Meredith. You won't see them in Moultonboro. I know the homeless people are here and we have no place for them to go. But we don't need to encourage more of them to come.
How do we do that then? How do we
I don't have the
discourage
answers.
people that are already off the grid?
I don't have the answer. If you look in the Daily Sun, has probably 400 or 500 help wanted ads every single day. Get a job. You laugh. It's not.
I'm not laughing.
Somebody wrote to the Daily Sun after my article in the paper saying homeless people can't get a job because they have no address. They don't have a telephone. Most of them have phones. Does that mean you're not going to work for the rest of your life because you don't have an address? You're never going to get better.
It's a complicated issue for sure.
It's tough.
And I don't have the answers. I do have questions often. For example, I walk by the Congregational Church, walking my dog every night, and I see folks hanging out in their portico there. I mean, isn't that private property? Can't the police drive by? They don't stop and say you're trespassing on this private property, you need to move along. Or when they see somebody strolling down the street with a shopping cart that obviously came from Vista and ends up in my front yard, can't the police stop and say, you're basically stealing that? So there are a lot of related issues, and I wonder why there isn't more enforcement of simple things like trespassing, shoplifting, shopping carts, or
Wilkesboro
whatever.
has it. Meredith has it. You won't see that happening there.
Well, unfortunately, one of the problems.
Why?
Well, not really a problem, but we are the county seat and we offer a lot of services that the other places don't offer. So just out of need, when we did that site walk for the gardens, I said, man, this is the first time I've walked through an acre of woods and not seen anybody camping out. And someone said, yeah, because this is up in the Weirs. There are no services. There's no supermarkets up here. There are no restaurants for them to get, handouts or whatever. And unfortunately, downtown where the library is and everywhere else, that's where the services are, and that's where the possibilities present themselves to be able to live off the grid.
A city's
say it
always
that
going to
way.
be an attraction, for the homeless. They have, so they could kind of hide out, But just, when I read this in the paper, it just said.
All I can say is since Isaiah 61 started, I see less of them on my street.
Today's paper, today's Daily Sun, 5 people were arrested by Laconia Police Department. 3 of them had no address.
That's pretty common, yeah.
You know, I'm not saying they're all from Isaiah, but
That's nothing new with having Isaiah there, though. But what we did in supporting of what they did had nothing to do with that. They've done transient arrests for,
I understand.
you.
We just gave them a warm place to sleep for the winter.
And then read the court log and they're all released.
Yeah, they are released.
You know, it's not just the police, you know, I'm a nurse, so the people at Laconia ER say they're in there every single day, you know, I hate to say they suck up our services, but they're not contributing, they're only taking. And I'm not saying we round them all up and ship them to Concord, but
Well, I have a problem with retirees, you know, because, you know, they're not giving anything, they're just taking.
yeah, but they pay property tax.
Somebody pays property
I,
tax.
you know, I liked your comment initially, Peter, is, you know, what's going on with this homeless task force? It's been dormant. I brought it up at a council meeting months ago. Mayor referred me to the minutes, which again were from.
It was a
last
political
18 months ago.
expediency, and that's all
That's
it
all
was.
that's been done.
That's all
It
it
was
was.
just a little window dressing and, you know, nothing's really been done to address the issue. And, you know, again, I don't know if anybody has the answers. I think it's something.
know
that
dozens.
should definitely be looked into.
I know dozens of people that are homeless. Many of them can't work.
And, you know, if there
Lots of
isn't an
them can't
Isaiah
work.
61, then they end up at Memorial Park camping out there,
And-
you know, which isn't.
And there's something
desirable.
about calling them
Or-
them. You know, you go to the library and you see them. They're us. There but for the grace of God, go I,
That's
right?
true.
Could happen to any one of us at any time. Nobody knows their stories. The Laconia Police Department is their primary service agency from the city of Laconia. They check on them to make sure they're not freezing to death on the really cold nights. Sometimes they're allowed to stay in the lobby of the police station so they don't freeze to death. We don't have social workers going out there and helping them. We don't have anybody leading people around saying, look, this is how you get these services. Many of these people that I've spoken with, and I actually had some homeless people address the task force and explained that this is not by choice. Many of them work. They can't afford housing. There's no rental housing. They're living in their cars. If they have kids, their kids are taken away from them and sent into foster care. And then they get into the spiral of hopelessness. They go to the city and they ask for help, and the city gives them all kinds of rules and so many things they have to do before they can get financial assistance. Or they're told where to go, but you have to be out by such a time. They go to the state and they apply for benefits and they don't follow through. Many of them don't follow through because they don't have the documents that you need in order to prove that you're indigent. It is a big problem, and I agree. I don't want a 71-year-old grandmother to say, I'm afraid to go to the library, but that's the library's problem. It's a public building. If they're having a problem with people causing problems in that building, then the police get called and the police remove the people from the building. You have to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. You get one free shot. You know, I hear what you're saying. I understand. I sympathize with the letter writers, but I don't like the tone of many of these letters that I read, because it's like, if we could just get rid of them, this problem would go away. No, the problem is society's problem. And we are society. We have the responsibility for these people. What's the city doing other than providing them with police protection and the occasional 3 hots and a cot up at the Belknap County Bed and Breakfast? You know, I hear you. I honestly, you know me, I'm a liberal bleeding heart. Call me anything you want, but I know these people are my people. And by the way, do you happen to know that there are a lot of AA meetings in the Congregational Church? that people congregating there might be waiting for a meeting. Right?
Certainly a possibility. I don't get that impression
Some of these-
walking by, but.
Some of these people with backpacks in the library, they might actually be reading books, right? I mean, thank you for opening the can of worms, Michael.
Sorry to delay our,
No, you didn't delay anything.
you know,
There's nothing we, this board can do. There's something we all can do. And every one of us has a role to play. And if you do it,
every little bit
right,
that you do helps. So, you know, one little bit helps.
right. But,
And that's how you build something, you know, one stone at a time.
but a task force doesn't do it unless they actually engage volunteers to bring the services out there. You know?
There's a million different reasons why people are in the situation that they're in. And there's just as many solutions to try and fix it, but there's no one panacea that's going to take care of everything.
No, it has to be.
And you're definitely right. It's not here at the planning board.
That's for sure.
So I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Still got a couple.
Sensing there's no.
Liaison reports.
Like Elena had something else.
Wait,
No, I'm just saying you gotta finish the agenda.
liaison reports, anything?
Charlie?
Charlie,
Conservation.
The historical district overlay is still waiting for the city to come back to them with their ideas.
okay. All right, then, well, with the motion to adjourn pending, sensing there's no opposition, I'll declare it granted at 9:29 PM.